right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday live stream for Week 3 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour plus, we're talking all things fantasy football related, whether it is starter sit questions, whether it's trade questions, whether it is reacting to what happened in your league in regards to yesterday's waiver wire and how we can improve your teams. That's the entire purpose of today's live stream, and of course, we'll try to achieve that as cleanly as we possibly can. When you guys send in questions, whether it be in the live chat and or super chat, include your scoring format. That is greatly appreciated, as I'll try to answer your questions, and of course potentially other members of our community here in the live stream chat will of course try to help you as well. Hope you guys are doing well on this Wednesday. Earlier today we did produce our top 40 wide receiver rankings for this week and a half PPR scoring format, like I've mentioned from before, and again I'll continue to mention for those of you who want my all-encompassing rankings besides half PPR but including full PPR at every single position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, flex. Of course, you can go ahead and check out Betr. I'll be partnering with them for the entirety of the season. Of course, putting together plays for tomorrow's, game between the Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins in tomorrow's quarterback and tight ends, rankings video. But if you guys want those rankings, again, you guys know, you got to sign up using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, and then make that first time play within a real cash play. And you'll get those rankings sent from my email directly to yours every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's get into answering questions, shall we? Let's begin. Let's see here. The first question comes in from Marty. Marty, hope you're doing well, my man. Thank you. It says, in a PPR, do I trade Chase Brown for Cortland Sutton and Kenneth Walker? My team is in the chat. All right, Marty, let me see what you have in terms of your team, because I think the context of what your team currently looks like is certainly going to be of importance here. So let's look up Marty's team. Marty, I don't actually see your team. Why is that the case? There you go. Nick's Fields, okay. Jamar Chase, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Rome Odunze, Terry Henderson, Ridley, Scatterboo, Kittle, Jawan, and Ferguson. Okay, so I mean, look, as of right now, all things considered, despite all the injuries that your team has kind of had to deal with, pretty good recovery as of thus far. Now, in regards to making this move in which you are trading for Sutton and Kyren, the way that I look at it, right? I mean, considering you have Jamar Chase, Bucky, Rome, like as of this moment and probably going forward, I don't see myself playing like a Sutton over Rome or Jamar, right? So then at this point, it's just a matter of like, are we moving Chase Brown because we prefer him over Kenneth Walker? Or do we prefer Kenneth Walker over him? I think it really just becomes a matter of, Marty, like how many wide receivers in flex can you start in this league? If the answer is 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, I think I keep what you have and just keep it pushing. Because at this point, I don't know if I'm too interested in moving Chase Brown. I still believe that regardless of Joe Burrow's absence, he will still be at a greater value point than we anticipate, or at least you're probably expecting to see. I would rather move other pieces in order to try to make a deal of this magnitude. Not sure if I'm too comfortable making that Chase Brown move, because I look at wide receiver for your team and I think to myself, well, you don't really need Sutton, right? That just becomes a luxury piece to where it's not a necessity. I'd rather take the tight ends you have on roster and go and look and try to fish for a trade in which you can send one of those tight ends and Chase Brown and get a better running back than Chase Brown. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question from, actually, if you can, let me know, Marty, two flex league. Okay, there you go. So that actually changes everything. In this circumstance, with the 2 flex league format, I'm more adapt to take it. At that point, I'm willing to take that deal because, again, it just helps your roster across the board. So I'm okay with that. I hate the idea of having Kenneth Walker with no Charbonnet, but in terms of improving your team as a whole, it will. Thank you. Appreciate the context in that regard. Appreciate that, my man. All right, Go Bill sends in a question. Bills, hope you're doing well, my man. It says PPR, pick 3. We have Kamara, Kyren, Jordan Mason, DK, and Myers. Okay, in a full PPR, considering you've got some really good options here. Man, okay. Full PPR, I think I probably end up rolling with like Kamara, Mason, Myers. I think it might be crazy, but I think that's probably the way which I go about this. Thank you. I could change my mind by the time I get to Sunday, but I don't think I will. In a full PPR, I'd be hard-pressed to play any of these other alternatives. Thank you. Ibrahim sends in a question, says Ferguson, top 7 rest of season. And where does Caleb versus Dallas rank? Caleb's going to probably be in my top 6 quarterbacks this week. The garbage time and the effective, statistics he's able to gather in said garbage time, considering they're playing against a far lesser defense in Dallas in comparison to what the Lions were presenting, I think makes Caleb a far more, impactful option this week. So Caleb's a really, really good, solid play this week, especially they're at home. I love it. As for Ferguson, rest of season, I mean, again, we have to remember that Ferguson, prior to Dak Prescott's injury last year, was a top 12 tight end. The year before was a top 10 tight end. And even last season, weeks 1 through 8, prior to Dak Prescott getting injured in that Atlanta Falcons game in 2024, Ferguson was a top 12 tight end, having scored 0 touchdowns throughout that span of time. So, of course, we know that Ferguson, there was a potential in which he could return to being the number 2 receiving option of this offense. We just weren't certain of it. We wanted to give it some time, obviously, to see if he or Pickens would claim that number 2 spot. It looks like we're leaning back in the direction of Ferguson. So, obviously, looking like he can be a weekly contributor henceforth, blindly starting him. Especially if that Dallas defense continues to, give up a lot of points. It just makes it that much easier to start all of the Dallas pieces, across the board. Lamb, Pickens, Ferguson, Javonte, Dak. Thank you. Ray C sends in a question. What's up, Ray? Hope you're doing well, my man. It says waiver wire pickup Golden or Alec Iomanner for the season. Rest of season, who would I prefer to have? Okay, I think this could be a legitimate discussion in terms of the impact that Iomanner could have under the assumption that he maintains as the number 2 target option of this offense, right? Because if Iomanner is going to continue to average, let's say, for example, if I'm not mistaken, he has 13 targets this season. Let's say, for example, somehow, some way, he is able to, for 17 games of the season, average 7 targets per game. That leaves him with 119 targets. I would be incredibly surprised if Matthew Golden even sniffed 100 based on how his utilization has looked. Based on the routes that he's running, based on how he is being kind of functioned within this offense, he is the deep receiving threat. And once Christian Watson returns, it feels like it's going to be less of an option for him to get all of those looks, which could be not week winning, but week making kind of opportunities. That's what scares me with Golden. I understand Reed being out definitely does provide potential opportunity for him to kind of excel within this offense. But I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. Jordan spreads the love. He does not prefer to give one singular target all of the opportunity. So Iomanner, I think is actually the one that I'd rather have right now. Yeah, especially, I mean, at this point, even though I when you look at purely history of success for first-round rookie selected wide receivers like Golden is, everything says history-wise that he should be the better of the two. But, opportunity leads to success in fantasy football. Jesus Chavez sends in a question, says, I'm currently 0-2. Do I trade Hampton/Golden for Pollard and Rome? At this point, currently 0-2. Hampton is really a ticking time bomb in terms of eventually he's going to find himself finding success. But can you wait for it? Golden, again, is another one of these options like I just mentioned. I'm not too keen on the idea of waiting for that if you're 0-2 and you have an opportunity of grabbing a Pollard-Rome combo. I'll take it. That's fine by me. I don't know what the rest of your roster looks like. I don't know if this is an oversell, but at this point, unless Golden starts to haul in, legitimately, he'd have to start hauling in 7 targets a game. And the reality of the situation is last season, in 2024, when Jordan Love was healthy and active, Jaden Reed was averaging 4 targets per game. Well, 4.7 to be exact. Christian Watson, 4.5-ish. And Tucker Kraft, 4.6-ish. So if all of the main contributors of the Packers offense are going to average anywhere between 4 to 5 targets per game, not receptions, targets per game, it's just not enough opportunity to be justifiable to where I'm I'm all in. I would have thought that you utilize first round draft capital to get him the ball 8 times a game minimum in terms of targets. Nayray says, see question below. Go. All right. Thank you, Nayray. I appreciate that, my man. All right. Let's see your name. All right. It says, okay, let's see. I think you got a lot of questions in the live chat here, my man. Let's see if I can find. Okay. So it says, my redraft PPR trade. Gibbs, Evans, Tootin for the London Genty, K9, and Terry McLaurin. Okay. Says I have Charbonnet already. Would be trading Gibbs package away. Understood. And then your follow-ups for context was 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Okay. Thank you for the context, Nate Ray. Let's see what you have here. So in terms of the potential of making a trade of this caliber, am I comfortable bringing in that haul in comparison to what I'm giving? Yes, I'm okay with that. Under the assumption that every single person that you're trading for becomes a contributing starter to your roster, so London, Genty, K9, Terry, if they're all going to immediately plug in to where you can start London, Genty, K9 as your 2 RBs and one of your wide receivers on top of whatever you have on roster, then yes, I think that is a viable enough trade, because right now Tootin is a later term potential fantasy option. I would say mid-season probably finds himself in full stride. But being able to get what you theoretically are, I prefer London over Evans, and you're getting Genty and K9 in the replacement of a Gibbs, which if you need the running back depth, I think is very, very solid of a take. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. All right, we continue with MC, who sends in a question. Thank you, MC. Appreciate it. Says I traded Tyreek Hill and Kenneth Walker for Chase Brown and Scary Terry. Let me know. Yeah, look, here's the thing. I think Terry McLaurin is a perfect buy low candidate for those of you who are in a league in which, again, there is a panicking Terry McLaurin manager that isn't asking for much in return, right? Like if you are trying to, let's say, trade for Terry McLaurin, and they're like, oh, well, I'm only going to trade him for comparable value based on what he produced that last season. Well, he's not a top 6 wide receiver anymore, right? So unless they're going to sell him off as a wide receiver 3, which if you're capable of accomplishing in this circumstance, then that works. But in terms of the trade, I think it depends. I was going to say it's relatively even, but it's super dependent on what happens between Scary Terry and Reek. Both of them are very much so coin toss, like not coin toss, but more like you're rolling a 20-sided dice, and really anything could happen. You can go and hit the max crit, or you can completely just fail with a 1. There's just so many possibilities of outcomes between them, but Chase Brown I do prefer over Kenneth Walker, and if Terry McLaurin at least comes back down to reality and is able to find himself a little bit more consistency of target opportunity, which hopefully, fingers crossed, he will, especially considering he did not practice all of training camp. I think as the weeks progress, he will get far more inclusion and, of course, kind of stability within the offense. Duro Modi sends in a question. What's up, Duro? Hope you're doing well. Says, Andrew, what's up? What's your opinion on Travion Henderson? Should I move him or wait? I mean, look, here's the thing. If you were going to move him, right, you would be theoretically moving him at his lowest potential value point. If you're getting offered someone like Pickens, like you mentioned in your question, the question then becomes, what does your running back depth look like? And does moving him actually provide any sort of value in terms of Pickens immediately contributing to your team? In the event in which he is, really the only way that I see it right now based on watching Ramondre Stevenson produce, Ramondre's playing well. I mean, look, here's the thing. 2 of the rookie running backs that we were very uncertain of, and we were obviously, speculating their value this offseason, was Travion Henderson and, of course, RJ Harvey, both second-round selected running backs. The question is, as of right now, why aren't they playing? Well, the primary reason is because the running backs that are ahead of them on roster, the veterans, Ramondre Stevenson and J.K. Dobbins, are quite frankly just better players at the moment. Or at least they're performing well enough to where there isn't a question by the coaching staff as to whether or not we should give opportunity to the RB2. So as they continue to progress for the remainder of the season, in the event in which Stevenson never goes down with an injury, never makes a mistake, never fumbles, never does anything like that, at this point, it's going to be difficult for Henderson to dig into a greater workload share, especially on the ground, as they trust Ramondre kind of implicitly there. Even though week 1 was a little bit of a tougher kind of scenario, considering how great the Raiders have been in terms of stopping the run, going forward, if Travion Henderson's like your RB3 right now, I'm probably not moving him unless I'm getting an RB in return. I would hate to lose the value of RB depth in order to bring in a wide receiver. If he's like your 5th running back on roster, then that's fine. Speak Your Piece sends in a question, says, who should I start this week in a PPR, Breece Hall or ETN? Great question. I would probably prefer to play Travis Etienne in this circumstance. As for Breece Hall, again, even with Tyrod Taylor, I still expect it to be a really solid week for him, to where he's going to be in that top 24 conversation-ish, under the assumption that, again, the offense is able to move the ball effectively, not too many turnovers early on. But I'd even hope that Tyrod Taylor can kind of dump it off in his direction. But ETN is the preferred play of the bunch, taking on Houston. I understand that the Houston Texans defense, again, at times in terms of their secondary, are one of the best, and obviously pass rush rise, they are one of the best in the league. But stopping the run, they got completely cooked on Monday night. Tampa Bay shoved it down their throat. What was it, 130 plus rushing yards by the 2 running backs, Bucky and Rachaad White. So yeah, I'll go with ETN there. Flotation sends in a question. Thanks, Flotation. Hope you're doing well. Says, I sent a question on X. Thank you, man. Appreciate the help. Okay, let's see what you have here, my man. Alrighty. The Buccaneers lose starting guard. Dude, that's 3 offensive linemen that is out for the Buccaneers, man. What does this say? It says Buccaneers guard Cody. Okay, knee injury is significant enough to require surgery and is expected to be a season-ending. Oh my God. Okay. So right now, going into this week, the Buccaneers have 3 of their starting offensive linemen out. Their left tackle, their right tackle, and of course, their right guard now. Jeez. Sheesh. Not looking good. Not looking good. Okay. Let's see here. Flotation. Let's see what you have here, brother. Let me see what your question is, and then I'll go ahead and I'll look at the team. It says, starters sit in a full PPR. Also, are there any trade ideas you can think of? Yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, for those of you guys who are wondering, Andrew, what kind of trade ideas do you have in mind? I'm of the opinion that I understand that it's difficult, but if you're in the possibility, if you have the opportunity to potentially trade for a player such as BTJ, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, or Drake London, if any of those players in your league are up for grabs, I understand that if you're playing in a sharper league, they're going to want relatively comparable value in return, but I'm still willing to even just explore the opportunity of trading for those kind of players. But let's see what you have on roster in specific here. When I look at your team, Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ramondre, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Ridley, Henry, Tracy, Lawrence. Okay, so here is your primary issue. Your flex, now that Aaron Jones is out and on the IR for a while, Tyrone Tracy is absolutely scary. Again, I don't expect him to get much workload of opportunity, considering he's not going to be commanding any goal line attempts. He's probably not going to actually command any sort of early down rushing workload now that Scadaboo is beginning to, really start to get a lot of workload in that opportunity share. And in terms of targets, Russell Wilson's really not been looking in the direction of dumping it off to running backs, but rather looking in the direction of guys like Theo Johnson and Wan'Dale Robinson within that mid-range opportunity share. So until further notice, I'm legitimately looking for an alternative option there. If Renfro's that answer, then so be it. As for how you could potentially improve this team, considering running back's already an issue for you, you can't move guys like Gibbs or Stevenson. I think you kind of have to hold strong on those. This might be a situation where you take Trevor Lawrence in this Superflex format and you move him alongside of like Hunter Henry theoretically, and you go try to get a lesser quarterback, a little bit of a better tight end, and that's how we move forward. Or maybe you take Tracy and Lawrence and you try to go get a better running back and a lesser quarterback and push forward. Because at this point, the flex and tight end position for you is bleak. And there's not really much else on bench that makes me feel confident. Hopefully Mark Andrews can do something for you, but that's going to be a little while from now before we can feel a little bit more confident regarding that. Thank you. Bathroom Cake sends it a question. Says, Judkins or Swift for rest of season? Also, is Judy and or Njoku droppable? Okay, it depends on what the context of the droppability of Njoku is. Do you have another sustainable tight end on roster? Theoretically speaking, do you have a Tyler Warren, a Jake Ferguson, a McBride, a Bowers? If something like that is already on roster, Tucker Kraft, Travis Kelce, if you have one of those kind of tight ends on roster, then yes, sure. Njoku's droppable, and you can go ahead and you can see what you can explore with moving forward. Because obviously Fannin has dug into a lot of his workload share of opportunity, considering Fannin is primarily the leading slot receiving option of that offense. So I don't mind the idea of dropping Njoku. I'd probably keep Judy for now, though. Njoku could even be traded. Time will tell. But again, final year of his contract. We'll have to wait and see if they want to sell there. As for Judkins or DeAndre Swift rest of season, I'd still, considering the Cleveland Browns are going to be implicated for such negative game scripts on a consistent basis. I mean, looking at their upcoming schedule here, I'm led to believe that we're not going to see Judkins get like the full workload reign of opportunity for a little while here. Like their next 3 games are against Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Then after that, once you get to the Steelers, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, that's when I'd like to unleash him. If you can wait until then, and it's not going to be like, oh, I can, because I don't think Judkins is going to do very much in the next couple weeks here. It's going to be really tough for him to do so. If you need considerable contributions right now, then Swift is the answer. Otherwise, if you can wait for later on in the year, for again that streak of games where you have even the Vikings can't even stop the run. The Vikings, the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and then you have the Jets. Ravens are a little bit tricky, but again, then you also at the end of the season have the Raiders, 49ers, Titans, Bears. Again, I think Judkins is the answer if you can wait for it. Thank you. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from KLYZM, who says, 2 questions. PPR, pick 2, start Ridley, Keon Coleman, or Jerry Jeudy. I would prefer to play Keon Coleman 1, Ridley 2, Jeudy 3. Next question. Also, Hawkinson one more time or ride with a target like Ja'Tavion Sanders at tight end. Wow. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable playing Ja'Tavion Sanders ever, legitimately. The only reason I ever suggested him is because he's someone that we want to keep an eye on in case that target opportunity share continues to be very plentiful. Again, there's a reason why he had 9 targets. It's mainly because they were down 24 points with 9 minutes left in the third quarter on Sunday against the Cardinals. So am I rolling with Hawkinson again? I'm going to hope that Carson Wentz provides some sort of help to where I'd feel a little bit more comfortable there. So yeah, I'm riding with Hawkinson again in comparison to Sanders. Brian Colorado sends in a question, says, questions in the chat. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Before I get to that question, if you can, Brian, retype it into the live chat. Until then, Andrew Mitchell sends in a question, says, in a non-PPR, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, I have London, Tedero, McMillan, Pickens, DJ Moore, and Swift. Okay. So if we're talking about who we're starting of those available options, Drake London is a must start. I would even venture to say, you know what? Of the available options you do have, I probably end up playing 3 receivers. I go London, I go Tet, and I go Pickens. The only reason I would ever play Swift over Tedero and McMillan is if if Terrell is active on Sunday, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable rolling with Swift and Tet in a non-PPR. Otherwise, it's London, Tet, and Pickens. Thank you. Brandon DeCoste sends out a question. Says, I'm currently 0-2 in a 10-man full PPR league. I need a better running back 2 and a better flex. My team is in the chat. Any suggestions? Crunch time. Need some W's. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and let's check that out. I'm going to write down your name, Brandon. I appreciate it. And then we'll, of course, write down the name of Brian Colorado. Brian. And then Brandon DeCoste. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize in advance. Again, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Wednesday, afternoon, night, depends on where you're at in the world. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, over the course of the next hour, we'll try to answer any and all fantasy football questions, whether I'm able to directly answer your question or by proxy of answering somebody else's question, trying my best. Again, somebody had asked in the live chat, Andrew, why do we have Brian Thomas Jr. as the thumbnail of today's episode? Well, Brian Thomas Jr. specifically sits here because I want to trade for him. And I will try to do anything that I possibly can to trade for him, except for giving away players that are a little bit more valuable at this current moment. I think he's a perfect buy low candidate. I think the contributions that he has put forth recently in fantasy they don't speak to the value that he could have for the remainder of the season. He's far too valuable. He's far too talented. Liam Cohen will get it right. Okay, let me go into the live chat and let's see what we have here in terms of Brian Colorado, who says, I'm currently in a super flex league. I have Kyler, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Achane, Brees, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, that's not Travis Etienne. I read the wrong question. Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Neighbors, Evans, Sutton, Hunter, Quentin Johnston, Cedric Tillman, Ferguson, Kelsey. Ferguson over Kelsey. Am I going to play Fergie over Kelsey this week? Ooh, goodness. I honestly, because I consider that game to most likely be a shootout, I probably do, to be honest. Okay. As for your other question, it says Sutton over Kenneth Walker. Also trade. Okay, no, I wouldn't play Sutton over Kenneth Walker. I'd rather play Kenneth Walker against the Marlins. Also traded Penix and Tedero McMillan for K9. Also traded T Hill for Sutton. T Hill for Sutton, I could justify under the assumption that T Hill and the Miami Dolphins' entire situation blows up. I'm okay with Sutton. I think this most recent game is very much so unlike his recent production. It's the outlier in the long term. So I'm fine with that. I think the trade for Kenneth Walker is also very solid in a super flex format, considering you already have Kyler, Jones and Trevor Lawrence. You can afford to make a move like that. But yeah, Ferguson probably this week. And I will probably lean towards playing Kenneth Walker against the Saints. Thank you. Let me see if I can find Mr. DeCosta's question here. Nope, that's not where I wanted to type it. Okay. Brandon, if you can retype in your question, my man, I appreciate that. Once you go ahead and get an opportunity to do so. Until then, we'll continue on answering some of these questions. All right, scrolling back up into this mix, we have a question from Unknown, who says, Unknown Cayman says, I need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers in a flex. My team is in the chat. Okay, hopefully it's in the chat recently. That way I can just go ahead and just look at it. Yep, it's right here. It says I have Chuba Hubbard, Bijan Robinson, JSN, Ladd McConkey, and Chase Brown. Travis Etienne, Marvin Harrison, DK Metcalf, and Jacoby Myers. So who should I play between 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers in a flex in a 10-man full PPR format? Bijan has to play. JSN has to play. And then the rest of the overall mix becomes a question of whether we can only play one flex. Oof, man. Okay. Bijan. I'm really thinking about this. The PPR league. Bijan, Chase Brown, ETN, JSN, and then it's probably Lad at that point. You could play Myers because it's a full PPR. It's a little bit more viable, actually. So it is probably, considering you can only play 5, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Bijan. Yeah, there it is. Bijan, Chase Brown, ETN, JSN, Myers. Thank you, Unknown. Appreciate it. Okay, continuing on. Let's see if I can find Mr. Brandon DeCosta's team is in the chat. Need advice for suggestions. Yeah, so here's the issue. I looked for your team in the chat, and I couldn't find your most recent message because you probably sent it in a while ago. Let's say maybe like 5 minutes ago. If that was the case, the chat updates so quickly that unfortunately it's not available there. If you can, just retype in your question, or if it's available in your chat because it's not available in mine, just copy paste it. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, my man. All right, let me go ahead, and while we're waiting for Brandon DeCosta to send in that question, we'll continue on with the next question as such. Eric M says, in a full PPR, I got offered Tyreek Hill for Ibuka. Is it a good trade? I would take the Tyreek Hill side of that trade, yes. Primarily because, again, Chris Godwin's going to come back. It's going to impact Ibuka. I think Tyreek Hill, whether it is a complete meltdown in Miami or whether he does stay in Miami, regardless, I think he's more valuable in the long term. Andrew Gonzalez sends in a question. Says, would you do Devontae Adams for Nico Collins and Charbonnet? Yes, I would. I would rather have Nico Collins over Devontae Adams 1-for-1. So if you can get Charbonnet on top of that, I think it's a great deal. It says full PPR league. Where do you rank Drake London and Nico Collins rest of season in a full PPR? Like in comparison to one another or in comparison to the rest of the field? Because that's a completely different question. If we're talking about Nico versus London, I would prefer to have Nico Collins rest of season. But both of them are certainly over Devontae Adams in this circumstance. And both of them, in my mind, rest of the season are still in that top 12 conversation. CJ Rich Boxing sends in a question. Says, I've got DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery as RB2 options in a full PPR. I'm nervous about DeAndre Swift's questionable tag. Thoughts? I mean, look, here's the thing. As of right now, it's only Wednesday. If the injury is to proceed to a potential Friday inactivity, DNP potentially did not practice or did not participate, if that is to potentially take place, then at that point, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Again, he already practiced at a limited capacity today. It wasn't that he didn't even miss practice, so I'm not worried about it. I think he's fine. So as of right now, I think you're fine. If you're looking to potentially start somebody out of this group and you're worried about Swift this week, just roll with Dobbins. I mean, again, you can even roll with Montgomery. It really just becomes a matter of which of those 3 guys are scoring a touchdown anyway, as to who is actually the best play of the bunch. CJ, thank you. All right, let me go back into the live chat and see if Brandon ended up typing that question in there. Okay, it says, all right, so he says, my quarterbacks consist of Caleb, Daniel Jones. Running backs are Bucky, James Conner, Tracy Tootin. Wide receivers are Neighbors, London, T-Mac, Jawan Jennings, and Keon Coleman. Following with my tight end is Juwan Johnson. Kittle is hurt. Broncos defense and the Falcons kicker / Okay, cool. So in terms of RB2 and flex suggestions, based on what you currently have on roster, Brandon. Okay, this becomes a let me actually close this injury tab. We don't need that there. Okay, beautiful. So based on what you have, I mean, Bucky Irving, James Conner, Tracy Tootin. Tootin is like a long-term value. James Conner is probably what you're trying to improve upon. In order to potentially kind of improve, in my mind, in terms of this roster, I said it yesterday, I'll continue to reiterate, I would like to try to go and get Ashton Genty. I would like to try to go and get JCM. Those are running backs that I feel like I can go after and I can feel confident in terms of their potential for remainder of the season value. And I'm not going to pay too much overprice for their current circumstance, considering they haven't had great weeks as of yet. Like when I mean great weeks, I mean enough to where like people are not going to be willing to trade them away. So if you're able to potentially knock on those doors and get some value there, I think that's not a bad idea at all. I would even venture to say that there's a possibility in which you could sneak around, see if there's a potential in which you could, I mean, looking at your roster, take a James Conner, stack it up with potentially a T-Mac, and push for even more value. And when I say even more value, I mean like we're going after if you find a desperate enough team. I don't even think you need to go for that. No, I wouldn't. Yeah. For now, unless someone's just going to take Connor from you and they're going to give you Genty, or unless someone's going to take Connor and a wide receiver and then give you an upgraded wide receiver and, Hampton or JCM in return, that's what I would look forward to. Otherwise, in terms of your like running back flex situation, like James Conner is still a stable RB2. Like your flexible option after you play Neighbors in London as your wide receiver 1 and 2, T-Mac is a solid flex. So I'm not like panicking in this circumstance. But again, if there's a possibility in which you can take the value that you currently do possess and go and try to buy low on those running backs I just mentioned, then I would explore it immediately. Any other players theoretically that I would look to potentially go and buy low on at running back? Evidently, there's not really much unless you're trying. I mean, like you could theoretically go after Jordan Mason. I think that would actually be a lesser investment because, again, there is still the return of Aaron Jones, but I think that also could be of very good value in terms of a prospect you can get on the ground floor of now before the emergence of his upside begins to show through. All right, let me scroll back up here and continue answering some of these super chat questions. I appreciate y'all being patient with me today. Again, a lot of you have sent in questions that I can see right now that have no questions attached to them. If you guys can, please attach those questions in the future. Otherwise, be prepared and on standby to type those questions back into the live chat so that I can answer them once I get there. Thank you. All right, we continue with Drew O, who sends in a question. Thank you, Drew. Says, I'm currently 1 and 1.5 PPR. My wide receiver room is in shambles. Hold the line or make trades. My quarterback is Mahomes and Fields, Bucky, Achane, Tracy, Hampton. Wide receivers are BTJ, Marvin Harrison, Higgins, Ridley, Coleman, and Diggs. Kraft and Fannin. I mean, look, at this point, yeah, I'm not making any moves. You may see it as shambles. I see it as they're just in the slow cooker. Like, just give them a little bit of time, and eventually they're going to find the value that you invested in them. BTJ is a guy that I would want to have on roster. Marvin Harrison is going to get better in time. So will Ridley. So will Higgins. Yeah, so I would just wait. I don't think you need to make any move. I think right now, making a move would be the panic play. Now, again, if you can theoretically go out there and trade a Higgins and a Coleman and go get a London or a Nico or something, or an AJ Brown or something of some sort like that, I'd be more than happy to explore that reality. But as of right now, I don't think you need to panic and make any crazy moves at the moment, Drew. I think there's a lot of value still left in that wide receiver core that is yet to be kind of, I guess, identified because, again, it's just been 2 weeks of the season thus far. Andrew Gang sends in a question. All right, do me a favor, Andrew Gang. Type that question in the chat again. Appreciate it. Blazed sends in a question. Says, trade Chuba and Fannin for McBride. Interesting. I have Jonathan Taylor, Genty, and Dobbins, and JCM. I've seen the Panthers lost 2 offensive linemen. Yeah, I don't worry. I identified that. Losing out on Robert Hunt. He's one of the better run blocking offensive linemen in the league, so certainly going to be missed. Am I making that trade? If we're playing in a full PPR Blazed, I'm okay to make that trade. Thank you. Especially considering your running back depth is so plentiful. El Pollo 33 sends in a question. Says, do I trade Harrison Jr. and Bill for Odunze and Hampton? I would. Yes, absolutely. I'd feel more comfortable having Hampton than Bill, and I'd feel more comfortable having Odunze than Marvin Harrison at the moment. Wii Sports Matt sends in a question. Says, in a 10-team full PPR, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, I'm currently 1 and 1. Anywhere I should improve, my team is Allen, as in Josh, Kamara, Kyron, Amon-Ra, Collins, Laporta, Tyreek, Hampton, Pearsall, Coleman, Charbonnet, Franklin, Daniel Jones, and Chris Godwin. I mean, ultimately, I think it is crazy to say, but I think the weakest part of your team is technically running back, and that's saying a lot considering how strong a combination of Kamara and Kyron is in a full PPR. Kyron, obviously, we're hoping he doesn't lose much workload in the meanwhile, but even if he does, you still have Hampton that's in the slow cooker. So at the moment, I don't think you'd make any moves. I understand that you're 1 and 1. You'd love to be 2 and 0, but as of right now, it's a really strong team. I'm not really making any drastic changes because I think it has all the makings of a team that in due time, especially once Collins and Kyron and Kamara start to really find those upside performances alongside of Hampton, Purdy comes back for Pearsall. I think everything is going to be in the right position for you, Wii Sports Matt. Thank you. Third Down Therapy sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, starters consisting of Nix, Achane, Kamara, was that Neighbors? I don't know who that is. Is that Neighbors? Maybe it's Neighbors. Or I don't know who that is. Third down therapy. The running back or the player after Kamara, who is that? Once you can go ahead and let me know in the live chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Andrew Gang had sent in his question, so I'm going to go ahead and handle that real quick. Currently says I'm 2-0 at a 12-team league in a half PPR format. I got offered JSN and Jalen Warren for Kenneth Walker and Egbuka. Do I take it? I am very interested. In a half PPR, it's very intriguing. My wide receivers are Puka, Egbuka, Sutton, Myers. My running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Etienne, K9, and Brian Robinson Jr. Do I keep my running backs or just go for London and BTJ? You know, to be honest, I think at this point, what JSN has demonstrated thus far leads me to believe that he may have more value than those, the two wide receivers I just mentioned, the aforementioned London and BTJ. Honestly, seeing as how it's constructed, I take the deal. I'll take the JSN side there, Andrew. I think that is actually really helpful because ultimately you still have Sutton and Myers that are going to be able to function in that flex position. I think you've got so many good players that you're like in one of those situations where you have so much surplus, but this trade actually helps you in the long run on top of it because you don't have Charbonnet, you don't have the insurance policy there. You get out on that overall circumstance, you sell high on Egbuka, theoretically speaking, and then you also additionally get a top 5 wide receiver in this conversation based on what Jason's been able to contribute recently without even scoring touchdowns. 100 yards minimum in each game, 8 receptions minimum in each game. Just wait till the touchdowns start to tack in here and really take them to the next level. Thank you. Alrighty, let me see here. My YouTube chat just crashed, so let me go ahead and refresh that page. Once that goes through, I'll go ahead and get back into the live streams chat. Appreciate you guys being patient with me today. Again, I know there's a lot of questions being asked. Hopefully, I can get to all of them in a reasonable volume of time. All right, really quickly, I wanted to see if we did end up getting a message in from, maybe not. Okay, maybe we can go check that right now. I'm waiting to see if there's a possibility. Third down therapy, when you get an opportunity to let me know what that other player is, that'd be greatly appreciated. I don't know who that player is. That Neighbors? Is that who you're referring to after the Kamara HN? Once you go ahead and confirm that with me, then I think it'll be easier to answer your question going forward. Thank you. All right, once we go ahead and get that, we'll continue answering questions. We had Jordan Williams. Jordan, thank you. Says Gibbs, Kyron, and Franklin, as in Denver's Franklin, for Bijan, Higgins, and Tootin. Interesting. Okay, as it currently stands, I'd rather just have the Gibbs and Kyron side for right now. Swift is my RB3. I also have a London. This is a PPR. And I'm a Falcons fan. I mean, look, I understand the Falcons fan idea behind it. I'm just thinking about this in terms of, am I willing to start Swift every single game rest of season? To which I would probably lean towards the no and just keep what you have. Unless you were making this trade in order to get the Higgins, but even Higgins I think is a lesser play without Burrow. I think Chase is fine. Chase Brown is fine. Higgins might be the one that will be a little bit more volatile going forward. He will represent like a Jameson Williams henceforth. So for right now, I would probably lean towards keeping what you have. Dahomas sends in a question. Says, I'm 12 in a 12-team PPR. I'm currently 2-0. I got Chase and Adams. Trade Debo for AJ. If you can trade Debo Samuel for AJ Brown. To be honest, I don't think I actually make that trade. I would love for AJ Brown to be of value, but the Eagles offense has thrown the ball 22 times this week, this most recent week, and 23 the game before. They don't throw the ball enough for me to feel comfortable trading for an AJ Brown. I legitimately, for some reason, I have like a mental block on it to where I'm okay trading for AJ Brown, but moving Debo makes it difficult. I could justify it though. Don't get me wrong. I could justify it. I just don't think I want to. Once Jaden Daniels comes back, and shoot, if Jaden Daniels comes back right now in a PPR, the volume of work that Debo has been exposed to isn't slowing down. El Pollo 33 sends in a question. Says Tyreek for Mason and Olave in a full PPR. If you're in need of that running back depth, I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm okay with that. Ahmed Khan sends in a question. Says I sent a question earlier in the chat. All right, Ahmed, if you could do me a favor, retyping that question into the live chat. At that point, I can go ahead and I'll search the chat for your question and be able to answer it. Thanks, man. JT sends in a question. Says trade Bucky, Irving, and Mason for HN, Hampton, and Ridley. Bucky, Irving, Achane, Hampton. Yes, I would. I think Achane is more valuable than Bucky Irving, and I think Hampton, in terms of Mason, is more valuable in the long term because Aaron Jones will eventually come back, and on top of it, you get Ridley. So yeah, Hampton side is the preferred. Third down therapy said, sorry, typos, neighbors, and Scatterboot. Got it. I appreciate the clarification. I was just meaning like you could just type in the live chat and I would have seen your question, but I appreciate you sending in that super once again. Okay, so in terms of Knicks, Achane, Kamara, neighbors, JSN, Swift, Jawan Johnson. Bench consisting of Rome, Judkins, Scatterboot, Daniel Jones, Judy, Ertz, Franklin. Who should I start in week 3? Okay. So in terms of week 3 starts, Achane has to play. In terms of the other running backs, yeah, I mean, as of what you currently have on roster, Kamara is your RB2. Neighbor starts as wide receiver 1. JSN is wide receiver 2. Rome Odunze is your flex. And then Jawan Johnson is your tight end. And between Daniel Jones and Bo Nix, I'd rather play Daniel Jones this week. And that's it. That's how we keep it pushing for right now. As for your next question, which running back should I package with Alvin Kamara or Swift? 4. Which running back should I package AK and Swift for? If you're going to send away a running back in this circumstance, I guess it just really matters as to what you're getting in return. I would rather get rid of Swift the rest of the season, and I would rather throw the Scatterboot on top of it in order to send it. But as to who I want in return, I would try to go after Hampton, Genty, JCM, Brees Hall. All right, Jordan Williams, we took care of that question. Okay, so let's scroll down here a little bit. We had a question that came in from Ahmed. Let's see if I can go ahead and find it in the live chat right now. All right, Ahmed, if you can go ahead and type that in, that'd be greatly appreciated. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see here. We continue on with a question that comes in from, okay, so I see a lot of questions here with, okay. We'll get there in a second. We're going to get there. All right. El Pollo says, Nico for Tyreek and Allen. Are we selling Tyreek? Yes, we are selling Tyreek if you can. As for Tyreek and Allen, I'm not sure if I'm making that trade. If that's Josh Allen, then it becomes a matter of who's your quarterback. As you know, if it's not Josh Allen, that's like Braylon Allen. Let me just keep Nico at that point. Appreciate it. Jeremy Melendez sends in a question. Says, is Dobbins a good running back too for rest of the season? Under the assumption he stays healthy, it looks like he's not going to give up his job, right? He has pretty much secured it based on his efficiency level as of thus far. As to whether or not we may see Harvey get more workload in the future is very much so dependent on how he performs, which based on what we saw last season, what we have seen thus far this season, he looks like he is not relinquishing that starting position. I have wide receiver depth, so I can trade some for my running back. Okay, so for a running back. Bench running backs include Tootin, Tracy, Corum. Trade Devontae Smith or hold. Yeah, as of right now, I don't mind the idea of trading Devontae Smith, considering you have wide receiver depth in order to go get some running back help. If you are going to theoretically take Dobbins and Smith and go try to get a running back upgrade, I think that's probably a really good plan of action in order to just cash out on both of those, considering what you have on roster. Alan sends in a question. Says, thoughts? We have Brown, Kittle, Golden for BTJ, Mason, and Pearsall. Okay, so that's Chase Brown, Kittle, and Golden for BTJ, Mason, and Pearsall. I would probably rather have the BTJ side of this deal going forward. Thank you. Rowett sends in a question. It says, Kraft, Jawan, T. Higgins, or Ridley for my receiver flex. Also, hope you've been good, bro. One love. Thank you. I appreciate it, Rowett. In regards to the available options you have for this week, I'm probably, okay. I'd be hard-pressed not to play Kraft this week. So if those are all the available options, Kraft is going to get in my lineup. Thank you. Next, the 806 says, rank 1 through 3 in a full PPR between Pollard, Sutton, and Kenneth Walker. Okay, so this week, if I'm ranking all 3 of those available options, I probably end up going with Kenneth Walker 1, Tony Pollard 2, Cortland Sutton 3. Thank you. Miracle Robinson says, I'm late. Happy birthday. Thanks, Miracle. I appreciate it. If you have a question, let me know. Benito21 sends in a question. Says, what's up, Andrew? Advice on my team, please. My team is in the chat. I'm currently 0-2, and I'm in a 12-team half PPR. Any trades I should pursue? Yeah, Benito, I'm going to go ahead and check that out right now. If it's not in the live chat, please do me a favor and retype it in. Thank you. Steven Yako, if you can, type in your question in the chat. Eduardo, if you can type in your question in the chat. I see all those supers, but nothing attached to them. So if you guys can do me the favor and type those in, that'd be greatly appreciated. Scott Green had said full PPR, Allen or Love. I'd rather have Josh Allen, brother. Thank you. All right, let me go into this live chat. Let's see. Ahmed Khan had sent in his question. Ahmed, I see it. Says, should I trade Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet and Igbuka for Drake London and Rashee Rice? My team consists of the following: Jaden Daniels, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Lamb, Sutton, Warren, Igbuka, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet. Okay. considering what you are getting in return, if it's a full PPR league, I'm willing to make the move. Because again, when I look at your running back depth of Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, and Jaylen Warren, you can keep them and start them for the remainder of the season. Are you losing RB depth in the loss of Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet? Yes, but they are also two running backs that serve as one singular attraction. Being able to get Drake London in regards to Kenneth Walker Charbonnet for London, I like the London side of that in a full PPR. In the event in which you were getting Rashee Rice for Igbuka, yeah, give me Rice for rest of season as of right now. That's fine by me because he will eventually and evidently start for your team outright every week in a full PPR rest of season once you have him back by week 7. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Benito had sent in a question, so let me write that. Okay. It says, hi, Andrew. My team consists of Jaden Daniels, apologies, Lamb, DJ Moore, Chase Brown, Hampton, Fannin, Dobbins, and Ridley. My bench is Diggs, Ingram, Downs, Sampson, and Tillman. Okay, looking at your team as a whole, obviously Jaden Daniels, we're going to try to see if he plays this week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time we get to Friday, we'll have positive news regarding his knee and the sprain and all that kind of jazz. In regards to the rest of your team, DJ Moore's a problem. Hampton's been a problem. Fannin's been, Fannin. Dobbins is okay. Ridley's okay. Diggs, okay. So here's the issue. Ingram's got to get off roster. Samson's probably somebody I'm willing to also move away from in order to try to go get some other alternative options. The only way in which you can resurrect this team is with time, theoretically speaking, because it's only a matter of time until like Hampton kind of wakes up from the slumber that he's within. Any other potential move in which you are making, you would be selling the players too low. Like DJ Moore and Ridley are at their base floor of production in terms of what they have demonstrated thus far. And additionally, on top of that, if you were to try to move them, like you can theoretically move one of them to try to go get Terry McLaurin because he's such a low value prospect as well. Like you can make those kind of eligible moves to where you are moving one of those players for a lower end, also additional other player. But if you're playing in a relatively sharp league, I don't even think you can get away with that. If you're not playing in a sharp league, shoot, you can maybe even take both DJ Moore and Ridley and ship them off to get a solidified RB or wide receiver 2 there. But then it kind of leaves you exposed to not having a solidified flex if you're playing in the 2 flex format. If you're playing in a 1 flex format, I don't mind that idea. But yeah, that's the biggest issue. It's that wide receiver 2 position, and how can we theoretically go about improving it with alternative options? Like at this point, I think time either heals it, or we may end up being in a position to where we have to go trade for. I mean, shoot, at this point, I'm going to try to go get Ricky Pearsall. I'm going to try to go get Terry McLaurin. I'm going to try to go get DK Metcalf. Those are players that I think you can theoretically buy low on in comparison. Thank you. All right, continuing on, I think I had a question here. So after Benito, we had Steven Yako, if I'm not mistaken. Where's Steven? There it is. It says Josh Allen, DJ Moore for Nico Collins and Caleb Williams. My team is Allen. Okay, really quickly. Looking at the trade in a vacuum, I would rather already have the Nico Collins side. So that's first and foremost. Now, when I look at your team, when you have King Henry, CMC, Devontae Adams, Chase Brown, Keenan Allen, Meyer, yeah, I would make the deal legitimately. I think what Nico Collins presents in terms of value and being able to at least have Caleb Williams and or maybe even another waiver wire option that you can play matchups with every week and kind of switch back and forth, I do make the trade. I think Nico Collins, when we remember the 2025 drafts that we were conducting, Nico's coming off of the board in the beginning of the second. Josh Allen's a third round value play. I'm going for the wide receiver that I still, in terms of rest of season value, I think he has more production. Does he read all the super chats or not? I'm trying to. I'm trying to the best of my ability, trying to catch up. Thank you. Eduardo sends in a question. Says, Genty, Sutton for T-Mac, ETN, PPR, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back. I'm currently in first place. My team is now, will now be Bucky, CMC, JSN, and Sutton. Okay. Rashee Rice waiting for the comeback. Genty and Sutton for T-Mac and ETN. Okay. So in terms of the value of those options rest of the way, I honestly could justify it. You know what? I think it's even. I think that is what I'm going to establish. I think it's an even trade. Whichever side you prefer is perfectly fine. In terms of current value, obviously the ETN side is a little bit more flavorful based on what ETN's been able to kind of go off with. But I think in the long run, I think it'll end up being a little, I think it'll be a relatively even trade across the board. And of course, once Rashee Rice returns, it will definitely make a huge difference there, Eduardo. Thank you. Okay, scrolling back up here. Let's see if I can catch up on some of these questions that have been sent in. Appreciate y'all. Okay, so we had a question from Scott Green. We took care of that. We're taking Allen rest of the way. Manil Patel sends in a question. Says, Egbuka, CD Ridley, JK, K9 Swift. Who should I trade away? I want to upgrade at wide receiver or running back. 2 or 1 deal, maybe. You mean 2 for 1 deal? Okay. Egbuka, CD Ridley, JK, K9 Swift. Look, if you're going to make a trade of this caliber, I don't mind the idea of taking Egbuka and taking Swift and trying to go get Nico Collins. Or try to go get even something better. Maybe you go find a panicking Jamar Chase manager or a panicking Justin Jefferson manager or something of that exchange to where I want a top 2 wide receiver. I want to try to go after BTJs, Londons, Nikos. If Chase managers are panicking, if Jefferson managers are panicking, I am all in on that. That's what I want. In the event in which that is not a capable potential outcome, then I am taking Swift and Egbuka and I'm trying to go after top tier running backs in which those teams have issues at wide receiver and Egbuka could be a potential healing remedy to their circumstance. That's how you 2 for 1. Because again, I would like to keep JK and I would like to keep K9 in this circumstance. And Egbuka is the name that I think is a little bit more flashy and it's a little bit better of a selling option at the moment. Thank you. Jay sends in a question, says in a full PPR, Wando Robinson, Egbuka, Connor, or Worthy in the flex. Of those available options, it depends on whether or not Worthy and Egbuka plays this week. In the event in which Worthy's active, he's probably in my lineup in comparison to the rest. LZ7 says PPR buy low running backs for rest of season. Genty, Hampton, JCM, Breece Hall. Is there anybody else that I'm missing off the top of my head? I think there could be an argument made for the potential of running backs such as, technically, Henderson could be in that mix. Again, I'm just mentioning rookies because in due time, they will be more valuable in the future. And you can buy them at their legitimate floor at the moment. Okay, Rogo says, sup, Andrew. I'm screwed, he says. On a 12-team half PPR, I have Jaden Daniels, McConkey, Myers, Gibbs, Swift, Strange, Adunze, Ryland. No, you're not screwed. You're fine. Pacheco, Shaheed, Austin, Benson. Yeah, this is how we fix your issue. I mean, at this point, Fandon has to play above Strange, and Strange probably goes night-night. In regards to the rest of these available options that you have, obviously, I don't love the idea of having to start Swift every single week, and McConkey hasn't been the greatest as of late. But at least Adunze is probably kind of filling in for that McConkey lacking production. I think you're fine. I think your biggest issue is tight end. Once Kittle comes back, I think everything kind of heals itself. If you have the opportunity, Brogo, of just waiting 1 week here, because I seriously do like this team, Pacheco's your issue. If you can go ahead and have Pacheco go off against the Giants, ship him the next week, I think it'll kind of remedy a lot of the situation to where you can take Pacheco and Swift maybe and swap them out for a potential 2 for 1 kind of buy-in deal. If a backfield specifically within your league has a little bit of a running back health issue with a couple injuries that have been tacked up, maybe the Aaron Jones manager in that circumstance. Mo Money has sent in a question, nothing attached to it. Mo, if you can do me a favor, type in the live chat what your question was. Thank you. Jonathan Lozano says, if I want to upgrade my RB2, aka Tony Pollard, can I pair him with Sutton? Rest of my team is Kyler, Genty, Lamb, Njigba, Adunze, Tucker Kraft. Okay. So under the assumption that you are pairing a Tony Pollard, who as of right now is about 10 points per week in a full PPR, alongside of a Sutton, which again, in my opinion is a top 24 wide receiver, and you're trying to go and upgrade at RB, I think there is a possibility in which you could, you know what, I'm going to be honest, I think you wait a week and then you sell them. Because I don't know if I want to sell Sutton off of this most recent performance. I want him to at least have some sort of relevancy to where it's a little bit easier to ship. But there's a possibility, again, if you can go get a Genty, I mean, shoot, let's just go for it. In the event in which that is not on the potential table, maybe you can go find a panicking Kyron Williams manager. Outside of that, at this point, buying low on Kamara in a PPR could work. 2 for 1. Chase Brown manager, panicking. Go after that. Those are the immediate suggestions. Chase Brown, Kamara, Kyron. Because of what you're giving away in terms of a 2 for 1 deal, because you're trying to ship 2. If you were trying to ship 1 for 1, I think it'd be harder. I think you're giving yourself an advantage here by being able to stack both of them up based on your current depth of Lamb and Jigba and Adunze, not necessarily needing Sutton in the short or long term, being able to ship that, maybe go get a Genty alongside of whatever names I just mentioned. Thank you. All right, Troops McGee sends in a question. Says, am I crazy to start T-Mac over Nico Collins? I'm currently 0-2. Are you crazy to do it? Yes. Would I tell you to? Yes, you are. That's it. That's all I can say. I think you are crazy to do that. Let's see here. Sammy Wiltshire says, hey, Andrew, lately Pacheco has been underwhelming, to say the least, brother, to say the least. In a half PPR, give him one chance due to this week against the Giants or drop him. No, I'd give him one more chance because look, here's the thing. Even if you don't start him and he's sitting on your bench, at least he has the opportunity of potentially putting together a decent enough performance to where he can become trade fodder. So give him another shot here. This is as good of a shot he'll potentially get all season long. I'm Gucci U Paulo sends in a question. Says PPR start to Sutton, Mason, Kyron. Quarterback is Bo Nix. As of right now, in a PPR, I'd be hard pressed not to play both those running backs. Even with Bo there, Mason and Kyron are probably my suggestions. Andrew Mitchell says, oh yeah. Also JCM, still Tet or Swift. If you have JCM this week with Mariota there against the Raiders, I don't know if I love the idea of playing JCM against the Raiders. That run stop defense has looked relatively clean as of late. For right now, yeah, I think I'd probably just stick with I'd probably still stick with Tet there, especially if AJ Terrell is out. Otherwise, Swift probably ends up being the guy. Breo sends in a question, says Fields or Purdy rest of season. In terms of rest of season value, earlier this year, prior to the draft, I had Purdy ranked higher. Considering his injury, the potential for re-injuring that, and all the issues with the roster that surround him in terms of injuries, it's probably just Fields because of what his potential upside looks like. The fact that he already sustained a concussion is very much so worrisome because if he sustains another one, he's pretty much done for the year. But as of right now, I think Purdy is safe. Fields just has more upside, to which I'm willing to try to go after that upside, potentially. Okay, Mo Money, let me see if I can find your question in the live chat. I'm going to assume that you typed in it recently. There it is. It says I'm 1-1 with 2 wide receiver, 2 flex PPR format. We have Dak, Fields, Amon Ross, JSN, BTJ, Rome Odunze, Worthy, Franklin, Alvin Kamara, Connor. This is not a roster, brother. You have a legitimate army. What in the heck? You have so many players. Okay, Judkins, Travion Henderson, Mixon, Jawan Johnson. Should I keep riding with the veteran running backs or go for an upgrade? I mean, look, considering what you have on roster, if you were going to theoretically ship these players, you would have to just sell for players that are comparable and or lesser options as of right now. So if you're going to ship away a Connor, you're going after a Genty or a Hampton, theoretically speaking, right? That's how you would potentially go about this. In the event in which you have the opportunity of accomplishing that, you should. In the event in which that is not a possibility, in which you would have to take Connor alongside of theoretically a Worthy or a Franklin or a Rome and go for an even bigger option, then sure, you can also explore that considering you have the wide receiver depth to accomplish it. But considering you have Amon-Ra, JSN, BTJ, and Rome in a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex full PPR format, I'm keeping all 4 of those receivers, and I would try to potentially pivot myself into a position where Connor and Worthy and or Franklin are the combinations in which I'm shipping away. Thank you. I know I'm talking like really fast. I understand that. Usually, again, I can talk very slow. I'm just trying to catch up, so I'm not keeping y'all waiting too long. I do appreciate you guys being patient with me. I know there's a lot of questions, so I'm trying to get through them to the best of my ability at a decent enough pace to where I'm not leaving you guys hanging too much. Thank you again. I appreciate you guys' patience today. Max sends in a question. Says, I just traded J.K. Dobbins, Nico Collins for Puka Nacua and Tootin. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Puka Nacua is going to be the wide receiver one this season. I said it. Well, no, I didn't say it to you guys. I was talking to my brother about it, and I was like, you know what? I think Puka is actually going to finish as the Triple Crown winner this year. Just as soon as those touchdowns start to kind of flow in here. The way that they're utilizing him, he is just going to be. I mean, I don't see. Yeah, I don't want to jinx him. I'm just going to knock on wood. We're going to keep it moving. Great trade. Okay, Christian sends in a question. All right, let me see if I can find your question, Christian. Once you go ahead, if you can do me a favor, type it in the live chat. That'd be appreciated. Thank you. AJ, and also make music. I see your super. Do me a favor, you also as well, if you can, type that question into the live chat. Thank you. All right, until then, AJ says in a full PPR, I traded Neighbors and Pollard for JT and Scattaboo. I have Hall, and my wide receivers are London, Adunze, JSN. Wow, really stacked the wide receiver there. Kittle's as my tight end. I'm currently streaming Jonnu, and I have Levitt quarterback. How do I improve? I mean, look, as of right now, traded Neighbors and Pollard for JT and Scattaboo. I have no... In a full PPR, I think I might actually prefer the side of Neighbors ever so slightly, but I think I do. Considering you have such a incredibly stacked wide receiver grouping and your running back depth was in shambles, I'm okay with it. I think it's a proper kind of like reallocation of the contributing points of your roster. So bringing in JT is solid. Scadaboo as another alternative kind of flexible option, great. In terms of how we theoretically quote unquote improve this team, I mean, your running backs and wide receivers now are set. Once Kittle comes back, you're set. Obviously, we would like in the short term to have something better than Jonnu. And I think Jordan Love, based on what he has contributed, he is not going to be a flashy player to where he is putting up those huge, incredible weeks, but he is going to be incredibly consistent every single week henceforth at a top 15 capacity to where he can range anywhere between like quarterback 10 to 15 to where he's getting the job done and contributing that 18 to 20 point range. Fingers crossed. Thank you, AJ. TJ9 Anthony says Garrett Wilson or Emeka Egbuka in the flex. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson. Trade Chuba Hubbard, Neighbors for Bijan. I think in a vacuum, I say no. It depends on what your roster looks like. It depends on how many teams are in your league. It depends on the scoring format, how many roster spots. In a vacuum, no. In the position in which you're playing in a 6-team league, 8-team league, and you've got a ridiculous stacked roster, then sure, if it's an all-star team. But context is very much so required to make a full established kind of opinion on the matter. Roy Shaver says, in a half PPR, I need 2. J-Mo, Warren, Kelsey, Wandell, Hunter, and Keon. I'm not playing Kelsey. I'm not playing Hunter. I'm not playing Keon. It's between Wandell Robinson, J-Mo, and Warren. In a half PPR, I'll lean towards J-Mo and Warren in this circumstance. Thank you. Famous Checks says, and I'm currently 2-0 in a 12-team full PPR 1 flex format. I've got Amon-Ra and JSM for Nico and Kyron. Interesting trade. My starters are K1, which is Kyler. Okay. Cook, JCM, Amon-Ra, London. Okay, looking at what you currently have on roster, am I making this trade? Okay, so technically speaking, I do expect Kyron to be more valuable than JCM. I think Nico and Amon-Ra will be comparable to one another. I know Amon-Ra coming off of a 3-touchdown game is very enticing to try to keep. Okay, this is what I'll say. I'll say you don't need to make this trade, but in terms of the way that I evaluate rest of season potential, I would. Thank you. All right, let me go ahead and let me travel to the live chat really quickly to be able to answer the question from Christian K. And then Christian K says, in a full PPR, remove who this week with Sutton, Dobbins, Jennings, Krosky, Merritt. If I'm removing one of the group in a full PPR league, I probably end up pulling JCM in this circumstance and just letting the rest roll. And under the assumption that Jaden Daniels plays, then at that point I'll probably just pull Sutton at that point. Your next question is remove who this week between Myers, Jordan Mason, and Egbuka. Between those 3, if I'm pulling one, it's Egbuka. Next question. Also, do you know the status of Jaden Daniels? Earlier today, the head coach of the Washington Commanders specifically did mention that he's not going to practice until Friday. Once we get the designation whether in fact he does practice or not by Friday, that'll insight us as to whether or not he is going to play. So we'll know by Friday. Thank you. Make Music has sent in his question. So that I'm in a half PPR. Somebody wanted my James Conner for AJ Brown and Kittle. Ladd, Sutton, Egbuka, Rice are my wide receivers, and Bijan, Kyron, Tootin. Yeah, if I was in your position, I immediately have taken this trade already. Make Music, take the trade. AJ Brown and Kittle is what you want rest of the season. Thank you. Okay, we've caught up there. Let's continue on answering questions. I appreciate y'all being patient. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's see, where were we at in terms of catching up here? Okay, the next question came in from DC2130, who says, I have Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and James Cook. I traded Scadaboo for Devontae Smith. Beautiful. I have no issue with that. Good move, yeah. I don't mind that at all. Based on how that Eagles offense is looking, it doesn't look like more than one receiver can be relevant within a given week unless they're going to change their approach. I says, I have London, Hunter, and Jennings as my other wide receivers. Yeah, I don't have an issue with this. I think in the long run, you're never going to play Scadaboo, but it's just a matter of building depth there to maybe even turn him into trade bait in the future if, in fact, he can stack together some pretty solid performances. Ibrahim says, thoughts on my 10-team half PPR league. I got Caleb as my QB. My running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, and Deebo Samuel are my wide receivers. Ferguson and Fannin are my tight ends. My flex consists of Montgomery, Connor. My bench is Nix, Diggs, Michael Pittman Jr., Higgins, and Scadaboo. Okay, so considering the roster is structured as such, If Higgins that is on your bench is T. Higgins, I think you've got a really strong team. I mean, already just your starting lineup having Christian McCaffrey, Henry, AJ Brown, Debo, and Ferguson, Connor, Montgomery. I think you're already in a really solid position here. I mean, really, in terms of improving the team, the only time you can really, quote unquote, improve this team is just trying to sell high off of big performances. So in the event in which you find yourself with Michael Pittman Jr. or Higgins on this bench or Scadaboo on this bench playing far beyond their normal means, then at that point, we're trying to flip them as soon as we possibly can. Because otherwise, they're never going to start over like Christian McCaffrey, Henry, Debo, AJ Brown, assuming he gets back to his normal state of affairs. So really, at that point, it just becomes a matter of like, we're just trying to improve bench depth, or specifically the second flex that we have on roster by utilizing a Marvin, like a Michael Pittman Jr. plus Montgomery kind of trade in order to try to go get somebody else. Which, I mean, honestly, you could try to explore that even right now if you can find a trade partner that has a viable option. You can take a Connor alongside of a Michael Pittman Jr. and try to knock on the door of a Chase Brown and see if they're interested. You could take a Montgomery and a potential, Michael Pittman Jr. and go knock on the door of a Genty. Doesn't mean that they're going to answer, but you can certainly explore those kind of routes to see if there's any sort of potential for a conversation to at least be begun, to which then you can at least kind of mix it around there and see what you can find. RJ sends in a question, says in a full PPR, my 12-man league, my wide receivers consisting of CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Ricky Pearsall, Pickens, Rice, Ayuk, Chuba Hubbard, Swift, and Tootin are my running backs. Hawkinson is my tight end, and Caleb and Daniel Dimes are my quarterbacks. What moves do I need to make? Yeah, we need a new tight end pronto. How do we accomplish that? Well, first and foremost, we'll look at the waiver wire. If, in fact, I'm going to assume nothing is available for you there, RJ, I think the best available way in which we can improve this is by I would probably try to use Pickens to accomplish it. Try to go get somebody else. I don't know if we can wait for Hawkinson to become relevant. I don't even know if he's going to be relevant, because once Addison returns, it's going to be difficult for him. So I'm trying to make a move to go and get a tight end and see who in your league has multiple tight ends on roster, in which one of them can be a solidified start every single week henceforth for you. And that's the way that you improve your team to the point to where you don't have to have any concerns going forward in this circumstance. Josh says, I need a defense. Vikings, Colts, Chargers. Okay, of those available, I think the Chargers are a strong enough defense where you can blindly play them rest of season. But if you're going to play one this week in specific, who I have the ranked highest, I would say the Colts against Tennessee. Follow-up question, Jacobs or Genty? I'd rather play Jacobs every week until the rest of the season. Hector Hernandez says, I have two parts in the chat. Okay, Hector, if you can do me a favor, retype in that question, because I'm going to assume that once you sent it in, it's been a while since you've in fact sent that in. So copy paste back. Thank you. JK says, trade away Worthy for Pollard. Scared about Worthy? If you are in need of running back depth and you are that concerned, then sure. If you're trying to cash in on the idea of Worthy now before a shoulder re-injury occurs and he may need and require surgery, then it's fine by me. But ultimately, again, I don't... that's just a play for getting out of the risk. I don't think Pollard is more valuable than Worthy. You're just basically making the move just to get out of the potential for risk, and I'm okay with it if you need running back depth. K Young Sue, 25, says, I'm in a half PPR. I have Trevor Lawrence, Tedero McMillan, Zay Flowers, Saquon, Bucky, Trey, Ridley, Golden, Fields, JCM, Pittman, Blue, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Trade JCM for BTJ after injury. The injury is not real. Brian Thomas Jr. practiced in full today. Do not even concern yourself. I would trade for BTJ in a heartbeat. Thank you. All right, continuing on. We had a question that came in from the S-Box, who says, in a full PPR, do I start Kincaid or Ertz? I would rather start Zach Ertz. Thank you. Again, Marcus Mariota has made a career, just throwing the ball towards his tight ends. So expect for Ertz to play in a pretty good spot this week. Carson Hughes sends in a question, says, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, or James Conner in the flex in a full PPR this week. If I'm playing one of these players in the flex this week, in a full PPR, do I want to play James Conner against the 49ers? Okay. My mind tells me AJ Brown based on where I have him projected. My body is telling me that James Conner's the play. So do with that as you will. Legitimately, I'd probably just play James. I would suggest playing James Conner. I just have a feeling. I don't know what it is. Roy Powell says, trade Pearsall for DJ Moore in a full PPR. Pick your poison. That's the name of the game. If you want to make the trade, you are picking your poison and you're willing to die by the DJ Moore pill, I don't have an issue with it. If you think he is going to flip the script, then you invest. Third Down Therapy says, if I send AK and Swift, what running back do I target? If you're going to send away Alvin Kamara and Swift, theoretically speaking, you would need to try to get back like a Chase Brown minimum. I think even that might be a little bit too low, considering Alvin Kamara is still really valuable, especially in a full PPR format. Like, if we're talking about what Alvin Kamara does full PPR right now, in comparison to the alternative running backs of the group, like right now he's averaging about 15 points per game. So under the assumption that you're going to add Swift on top of it, who's averaging about nearly 12 points per game in a full PPR, you would need to get back somebody of the caliber of like an Achane, who's a 21-point player, or maybe, Gibbs, right? Like that's what you would need to try to get back. Like, I'm not going to trade both these players. I mean, if you want to buy in low on Derrick Henry, you certainly can. But I would need some pretty good value in return for that investment, because I think Kamara, having only scored 1 touchdown thus far this season, it's shocking. He should have more. Also, he should have more receiving workload than he currently does. The fact that someone, like Chuba Hubbard has just as many receptions is a surprise to me. So if you're going to make a trade, you got to go for the top tier. I'm not going to sell low on those guys because I think they have enough upside remaining in them. Angel Montero sends in a question, nothing attached. Angel, if you can do me a favor, type your question in the live chat right now. Thank you. All right, let me see if I can find Hector's question from earlier. Okay. So we couldn't find Hector Hernandez, but I found the other Hector. What's up, Hector? Says, I'm in a 12-team full PPR, 2 flex league. I'm currently 2-0. I've got Josh Allen, Hampton, JT, Nico, Neighbors, Fannin, Njoku, Olave, Higgins, Keenan Allen. Do I panic about Hampton or go trade for a running back? If so, who? I mean, look, at this point, considering your roster consists of all of those incredible receivers with Nico, Neighbors, I mean, that's really solid. The fact that you have Keenan Allen there, you could take Keenan Allen and Hampton and go make a trade. If I was in your position, I just hold. I think you just give it proper time. You're 2-0. You don't need a panic trade. I think you're in a really solid spot based on how you drafted this team and how you put it together. Kudos to you. It's well done right there. DK trade for Connor in a PPR. I'm okay with that. I mean, again, if you're getting Connor, you need the running back depth. I think it's a stable enough kind of swap in this circumstance. Angel Montero says, let's see here. Also, I have Tyler Warren. Should I pick up Ferguson and drop one of the above? Who do you have on roster that you could theoretically drop here? Who would you drop for Stevenson? Mondo? Okay, what do you have? Rashid Shaheed can be dropped, theoretically speaking, in this circumstance. I think there's an argument that Ridley can be dropped in comparison to those alternative options. So, yeah, those are definitely plays that you could look in the direction of. Okay, where's the other Hector? Couldn't find him. Maybe he will swing back around. Thank you, guys. Okay. Would you do T. Higgins for BTJ? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. BTJ, I mean, again, let's not forget how good he was, guys. This is not a matter of like, oh, he's gotten to, he's out of his prime. No, it's not. It's just a matter of like, Trevor Lawrence sucks right now, and he's only going to get better, I promise. Oni sends in a question. Says, I'm in a standard league with Lamar, Bucky, K9, AMB. Who's AMB? Oh, it's what you're supposed to put Lamb. Okay, Lamb. Adunze, Tyler Warren, Worthy, Bucks, Prater. My bench consisting of Booty, Sharbs, Franklin, Harvey, Judkins, Shakir, Pearsall. Suggestions or trades? I mean, looking at the team as a whole right now, right? Lamar's great. Bucky's great. K9's getting better. Lamb's great. Adunze's great. Tyler Warren's great. You have Sharbs, so Kenneth Walker's actually a better option for your team. You have Judkins on the bench that is building momentum. You got Pearsall on the bench. You have Worthy. I don't make any moves. I mean, honestly, legitimately speaking, I think you've got really good players across the board. If you were going to theoretically make a move, you could try to buy low on prospects, like I've mentioned already, like a London, like a Nico, like a BTJ, and try to go and improve in regards to your flex position. But I would assume that the required kind of bounty in exchange for that kind of player service within your league would cost too much to where I'm not really making a move to where I'm giving like a 3-for-1 or 2-for-1 in order to accomplish that. Jose sends in a question, says, I'm hoping everything is good. Yeah, it is. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hope that is the case for you as well. Jose, thank you. Says, I'm in a league in which we have 12 teams. Daniels, Genty, JCM, Neighbors, Coleman, Warren, Montgomery. Okay. Aomanor. That's the way I pronounce it. Io Manor, I just don't like the way it sounds. Booty, Travis Hunter, Travion Henderson. What would you recommend? So, looking at this team as a whole, you are in a really tough spot because you've got a lot of rookies that need to start waking up sooner rather than later. If you would, okay, I'm assuming you're probably 0-2 here, Jose. If you're not, I think you should consider yourself lucky and count your prayers or your blessings, because at this point, you should be. The fact that you have JCM, Travion Henderson, there's been weeks here with Genty that absolutely nothing. Like, I think it is a strong enough team to where you are 1-1, you're holding. If you're 0-2, I might give it one more week, but then at that point, I'm trying to ship and I'm trying to make some sort of, splash, because at this point, man, you are in desperate need of some like stabilization. How do we fix this? I think the way you can theoretically try to stabilize this team, legitimately speaking, is to see what's on waivers at quarterback and then probably try to move Daniels to give yourself the opportunity of getting a better wide receiver and then another quarterback. Like, I wouldn't mind the idea of like buying low on a London by sending Daniels and getting another quarterback. Like, legitimately, I'm thinking that could be the move. If, like, again, there's enough quarterback talent on the waivers. Like, if the best available quarterback on the waivers is Michael Penix, then no thank you. We're just going to keep it moving. Eric M sends in a question. Says, PPR rest of season, Io Manor or Mooney? I'd rather have Mooney, legitimately. White, Tootin, or Algier? I'd rather have Tootin rest of season. Thank you. Leap Link AFF says, PPR, do I accept? Give was it T. McMillan? Okay. Plus Benson for AJ Brown. Yeah, I'll take the AJ Brown side of that deal. Thank you. Roger sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, Goff and Love this week. Okay. Says, okay, so are we asking Goff or Love, or is it? Yeah, it is Goff or Love. Okay. So I haven't done the full development of what I want to go about within those two specific plays, but if I was to give you my current representation as to how I want to play it, I probably end up I want to play Jared Goff. I think the safer play is just going with Jordan Love because I know it's going to be a blowout victory in their favor against Cleveland. I want to play Goff, though, because I want to hope that he can put together a 4-touchdown performance. I just don't know if he's capable. So for right now, I'll lean towards Love, but Goff is on the outside looking in. I probably both have them at like the back end of my rankings tomorrow in terms of my top 16, probably sitting at like 13 and 14 for this week. It says trade Tootin for Rice. I don't mind that at all. That's a deal. Sounds good to me. And it says I have Genty, Hampton. Yep, good to go. And yeah, that sounds like a great trade. Rogo says, thanks, bro. But my question was in the reply chat. What is the reply chat, Rogo? Let me see, Rogo. It says I dropped. Okay, so it says I dropped Geno Smith for Penix and looking to drop Denver's defense for Tampa Bay. Are these good moves? Geno for Penix is fine. I have no issue with that at all. Denver dropping for Tampa Bay just to play them this week against Tyrod. I mean, if you're worried about Denver, here's the thing. I'd like to play Denver's defense in about 4 weeks. If you can't wait until that streak of games in which they have incredibly easy matchups, then fine. We can make the swap now, and then we'll just play matchups until further notice. It says, what do I do with Strange and Fannin? You drop Strange, you play Fannin every week. And Swift and McConkey, as of right now, just leave them in the lineup. You're fine. Just give them time. Swift is okay. McConkey will be better. In due time. Appreciate it. Okay. Hector Hernandez says I retyped. Okay, Hector, let's see where I can find it. Okay, Hector Hernandez says, good evening, Andrew. Enjoy the show. As always, brother. Thank you, Hector. Says I'm in a 10-team PPR. I have Goff, Achane, Pacheco, Nico, Higgins, Ertz, Sutton, Dobbs. Bench consisting of Chubb, Fannin, Judy, Pearsall, Nix, and Tootin. Okay, so looking at the team, says, what are your thoughts on I'm 0-2. Any advice would be helpful. Okay, so looking at this team, Achane, okay, Achane's great. Nico is going to be great going forward. Higgins is fine. Sutton is fine. Your biggest issue is RB2, which is Pacheco. How do we improve upon this? Well, we're going to have to theoretically take anybody else off this roster to make a move in terms of trying to get some value there. Until further notice, I guess you can play Pacheco this week in hopes that he can put together a solid performance. But if I was in your position, if I was in your seat, I'm trying to take Nick Chubb right now, and I'm trying to take probably another prospect off of your team and try to go buy an RB2. So I would take Chubb and maybe Sutton and try to go buy a Genty, a Hall, a Hampton, a JCM. Legitimately, I would try to go buy, because I don't even if Pacheco plays well this week, I'm not playing him henceforth. Like, I'm just going to sell him the week after, right? So I think you should probably go try to go buy a running back with what you have on the bench / flex, and then push it forward. Thank you. Okay, we continue on. We had a question that came in from, we took care of that. Rob Monahan says, question is in the chat. All right, Rob, I'm going to go ahead and I will ask you to retype that in if you can. Thank you, man. Head Shop says, Evans for BTJ. Yes, I would rather have Brian Thomas Jr. than Mike Evans rest of the season. Bale Kim sends in a question. Bale, hope you're doing well. Says PPR. Should I send Christian McCaffrey for Breece Hall and BTJ? I'm already have JT, Jordan Mason at running back. I want more wide receiver depth. I would rather have another look, here's the thing. In terms of the trade as a whole, I think I could justify making the move. I would just rather have a different wide receiver. Like, if I can move Christian McCaffrey, I think it's fine. I think the trade it's enough in return to justify it. I would want somebody else. But if that's like the top tier receiver that you can get in return with the best available running back attached to it, then so be it. Austin H sends in a question. Says PPR redraft 2-0. Trade T. Higgins for Rashee Rice. If you're in the position to where you have enough wide receiver depth to be able to sustain the absence of Rice for the next 5 weeks here, then sure. In the event in which you cannot, and you think that the upcoming bye weeks that you have in week 5 and 6 and prior to the week 7 return of Rashee Rice are going to be significant enough to where you're going to get automatic L's, you may want to rethink the potential trade. But until then, again, if you think you can sustain it, I make the move. Ed sends in a question. Says PPR baby, 8-man league. Where can I improve? I'm going to assume you already have an all-star team, but let's see what you have. Says I'm looking for 2-for-1 trades. I have St. Brown, Puka Nacua, T-Mac, Sutton, Flowers. Okay. Very good. Very good. At this point, looking at your team as a whole in terms of a full PPR basis, St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Flowers pretty much start every week. We're looking to try to move T-Mac and Sutton. Subsequently after, you have Christian McCaffrey, ETN, Kyron, JCM, Jordan Mason, Hampton. Okay, cool. So considering what you have, Hampton and Mason, I'm waiting for them to have big performances, then ship them off. Same thing with JCM. So instead, I'm probably looking to take Kyron Williams alongside of T-Mac and or Sutton and try to go push for players like I mentioned earlier, where because it's an 8-man league, I'm willing to overspend. I'm willing to go after a BTJ in this circumstance to bring in more wide receiver depth there, or potentially in this circumstance, try to go buy one of the top tier quarterbacks. Go get me a Jalen Hurts, go get me a Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and just give up some of these top tier players if you have a team in your league that is struggling to find some effective running back and wide receiver help, because you're obviously stacked across the board. Quarterback's the improvement, and or potentially shipping and trying to buy low on prospects like I've mentioned, like a London, a BTJ, a Nico Collins. Thank you. JPadge51 says questions in the chat. All right, JPadge, do me a favor, type that in the live chat when you get an opportunity. Appreciate it. Emily Doyle says Pearsall or Judkins in the flex in a full PPR. As of this week, considering Judkins unfortunately plays against the Packers, I would lean towards Pearsall. Appreciate it. Okay, let me go to the live chat. Let's see what we have here from Rob Monahan. All right, Rob, where are you at, my man? Let's see. Rob, I don't see you in the live chat. If you can do me a favor, retyping that question, it's greatly appreciated. Until then, JPatch says, I have 3 tight ends. I got Kittle, Johnson, and Kraft. Wow, okay. I feel like I should trade one. You absolutely should. We're trading Juwan Johnson, by the way. For a running back and wide receiver, I have London, Tyreek Hill, Pittman, Pearsall. My running backs are Henderson. Okay, so considering the situation that you're in, it actually, now that I say like you should be trading Juwan Johnson, it's probably going to be more difficult to ship him than Tucker Kraft, because Tucker Kraft, I think, is a little bit more of a kind of known commodity within the fantasy community, considering how he played last season. So in this circumstance, I would probably lean in the direction in which, if we can, looking at this team, we have London, we have Tyreek, we have Pittman. I need another wide receiver here. I'm looking at what you have as a whole. Oh, man, running backs also really... Okay. Legitimately, J-Patch, I would even say, or Page, excuse me, Um, I think we legitimately take Kraft and Johnson and we trade them both. I don't even care that you don't have a tight end for the next couple weeks. I will start Kincaid every week until then, just to try to fix the rest of your team. Because I would really like to take like Charbonnet and a tight end and try to get it to the Kenneth Walker manager, or try to do the opposite to where I'm taking one of these tight ends and another running back like a Montgomery and trying to go get Kenneth Walker. Additionally, I'm also trying to improve at wide receiver to where if you can go buy low on an AJ Brown, I would try to accomplish that at BTJ. I'm even in the business of potentially going after someone like Terry McLaurin in the circumstance to which if that team needs a tight end, we look for it. Roddy Rich says, missed my super chat. I don't think I got to yours yet, brother. I'm still a little bit behind on the list, so I will try to get to it in just a moment. Thanks, Roddy. I appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at. I'm looking at trying to just explore every single possibility in which I can trade 2-for-1s, a tight end and a running back, a tight end and a receiver, and try to go get upgrades at both those positions. And then just start whoever at the alternative tight end spot. Thank you. All right, J Page, appreciate that. Malik Allen sends in a question. Says, I'm in League One. Okay, League One. Do I trade AJ Brown, Hampton, and Montgomery for Kyron, Williams, Sutton, and Corum? AJ Brown, Hampton, and Montgomery for Sutton and Corum. No. I'd rather have the AJ Brown side. Thank you. League 2 says May, Saquon, Mason, London, JSN, Metcalf. Panic or be patient? Be patient. You have a solid team there. Thank you. AJ sends in a question. Says, just following up, I just sent it an offer of Tillman and Gainwell for Golden. Josh Allen quarterback is open to trading too. Is it worth? Question mark. Have Charbonnet and Iomanner on the bench too. Look, sending Tillman and Gainwell for Golden is perfectly fine. You're basically just establishing that's your lottery ticket for the remainder of the season. Tillman and Gainwell will never, provide any value to your team. You're not going to start them unless you're in a buypocalypse, which we don't have buypocalypse till like week 7-8, when the London games start to show up and all that disaster begins to really explore itself. But in regards to going after Josh Allen, I don't have an issue with it. It's just a matter of like, what do they really want? They're probably going to ask for a lot, to which it might just be better to stream QB. But we could try to explore it if we can. Let me know. Just follow up. Just type in the live chat as to what you can theoretically kind of acquire from them, or inquire regarding what they want in general there. Anthony C sends in a question. Says, I took your advice and I bought low on BTJ. Traded Pollard as I'm stacked the running back. I don't know how you were able to do that, but congratulations. That's a steal. I don't know how you ended up. Yeah, that's a steal. That's just objectively a steal. Luke sends in a question. Says, Dynasty Superflex, full PPR. Drake May or Travis Hunter plus a 2025 first. Okay, considering we are talking about a Superflex PPR Dynasty format, I think I'd rather have the quarterback, legitimately. I don't know who's even. Look, here's the thing. I don't play in a dynasty, so I couldn't objectively tell you like, oh, one way or the other, this has got to be the play. I don't even know who the quarterback is that is like going to be the number one coming out of this upcoming draft, and I don't even know where they're going to end up landing. Right, so I'd rather just have the potential of Drake May in this circumstance. Blaze that sends in a question, says, I thoughts on Evans. Should I look to move? No, hold. I have Lamb, Golden, Diggs, and down. Yeah, no, keep. Unless you're going to move him from unless you're going to move him, theoretically speaking, for AJ Brown, Drake London, BTJ. Keep. Investing sends in a question. Says, I'm currently 0-2. Evans for Judkins and Shakir. Nope. I would rather have Evans. Thank you. Justin sends in a question. Says, how do I feel about trading Adams for BTJ? I would take the deal. Give me BTJ. Brandon O'Leary sends in a question. Says, 2 flex full PPR. Alick, Booty, Hampton, Golden, Shakir. Yeah, if we're starting 2 potential options this week, it's Shakir and Hampton. Roddy Rich sends in a question. Says, is Herbert and Pittman too much for BTJ and Sam Darnold in a super flex format PPR? What? Okay, yes. I think it, technically speaking, I think it is. I don't want to give away Herbert in a super flex format. I would rather have Herbert, and I'm not going to really, I'm not gambling on Darnold. If it was another additional, if the wide receiver you were giving alongside of Herbert was a lesser one, and the quarterback you were getting in exchange for this deal was better, sure. But otherwise, honestly, I'd rather have Herbert. Amazing AJ says 16 team PPR. I need a flex between Sutton, Jennings, and running back Warren. I would rather play the running back Warren. Outdoors for Life says flex Jameson Williams, Jacoby Myers, or Pollard in a full PPR. I'm probably leaning towards Myers in this circumstance. Janelle says in a full PPR, flex Marvin Harrison Jr., Montgomery, or Sutton in a full PPR. I will take Marvin Harrison there. Super Soaker says RJ Harvey, Pacheco, Matthew Golden drop one. If I was going to drop, and Troy Franklin as well on this list, if I was theoretically going to drop one, it would be Matthew Golden, because at least I can potentially flip around Pacheco next week. Troy Franklin's got too much value to drop right now because he'll instantly be picked up, and RJ Harvey is pretty much a handcuff that has a little bit more upside value in regards to his potential future. Levant sends in a question, nothing attached to it. Levant, I will try to get to it in a moment. And Joe Montero says, thanks, brother. Missed first question. Okay, Angel, I'll try to get to that as soon as I possibly can. Investing sends in a question as a follow-up, says, I'm currently 0-2 and I'm in trouble. My quarterback is Burrow/Browning and Russell Wilson. Okay. BTJ Evans, Tedero, McMillan, Olave, Pittman, Tillman, Christian Watson, Henry, Harvey, Hunt. Okay, so we're struggling at running back is what I've begun to understand here. It says trade is, okay. Now I understand the context. Now it makes far more sense, to which, okay, in this circumstance, I could justify it. Am I still making the trade happily? No, because I don't like playing Judkins the next 2 weeks. I think you can buy Judkins at a far lower value point 2 weeks from now, while Evans could even go up in the next 2 weeks, to which at that point you can at least maybe even get a better running back. In my opinion, I'm waiting. But if you're incredibly desperate for it and you believe in Judkins, and again, I don't think Judkins' value is going to be something that I'm avoiding. I think the rest of season kind of schedule after the next 2 weeks here is actually advantageous. So if you're like, Andrew, this is the best I can get right now, then so be it. Andreas Damien sends in a question. Says Kamara, Hall, Mason, and ETN pick 2. If I'm playing 2 of these potential options, it depends on scoring format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'm going ETN and Kamara. If we're talking about a half PPR, give me Mason and ETN. Thank you. All right, let me go ahead and let me get into the live chat real quick here, because I know that I missed a couple questions and or follow-ups that I want to go ahead and follow up on. So Levant had said in a half PPR 12-man league. That's all I see from you, Levant. I'm going to have to get another potential follow-up from you there. Angel Montero, where are you at, my man? Angel says, Andrew, my team is Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, Achane, Bucky, K9, Sharps, Chase, Evans, Sutton, Ridley, Shaheed. Who would you drop for Stevenson, Wanda Robinson, and Quentin Johnston in 12-man? Okay, yeah, absolutely. It's very easy. Shaheed gets dropped, Ridley gets dropped. As for who we're picking up, Ramondre Stevenson gets picked up, and it's a full PPR. I'll pick up Wanda Robinson alongside of him. That's the way I go about it. Good to go. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate the follow-up and the patience there, Angel. Okay, continuing on. Let's see if I can find Andreas. Yeah, I think I answered that. We're good to go there. Okay, let's see if Levant is in the live chat. Nope, no Levant. Not yet, at least. Okay, cool. Continuing on until Levant wants to go ahead and show back up. We will continue to... We had a question that came in from Andrew. He says, I'm currently 0-2. I'm in a 12-man full PPR, 1 flex format. I got Nico Collins, I got Drake London, I got Jameson Williams, Wanda Robinson, Troy Franklin at my wide receiver positions. Kenneth Walker, Pollard, Scadaboo, Tootin at running back, Kittle in the IR, and Kyler Murray at quarterback. Am I cooked? I mean, look, at this point, I don't think you're cooked. I think you've got unactualized value. Nico Collins and London have had horrible weeks in comparison to where they're typically producing. So when you look at that in general, when you have Kenneth Walker, who had a really bad week 1, Pollard has just not performed well at all, and he will improve. Kittle's been absent for you, so that obviously puts you in a little bit of a precarious position. I think in the long run, obviously you've unfortunately gotten a bad dealing of performances thus far. I think this team is far better rest of season than what they've really just put forward thus far this season. And considering you have these incredible lottery tickets of Scadaboo and Tootin on roster, you've got Wanda Robinson and Troy Franklin in a full PPR. I think you're in a really solid spot. Like, obviously, I'd like to have a better quarterback than Kyler, but that's the least of my concerns right now. My primary concern is making sure I have a tight end that is going to be contributable for the next 2 weeks here until Kittle's return. And I got to make sure that these guys, deliver. Because if they don't, then yeah, you could start 0-4 real quick, and then we're going to be, up against the 8 ball for a while here. But otherwise, I think you're in a solid spot. Barza Gaming sends in a question, says, hope you're doing well. Thank you, Barza. Says on a full PPR, start 2 between ETN, Kamara, and Egbuka. Yeah, give me both running backs. Thank you. Also, start Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield. Jordan Love versus Baker Mayfield this week, I think it just has to be Baker, just off of just pure consistency of play. I think, I'm trying to remember the stat that I mentioned before. I think it was, I'm trying to remember. I think he's had like 10 of the last 12 games with 2 or more total touchdowns scored. Like, he's just too consistent. Baker against the Jets team that has no Justin Fields, I think is the play. Sergio sends in a question. Says, in a 12-team half PPR league, build my lineup. I'm at a 1 QB, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex format. Okay. So, seeing as to how your lineup is kind of constructed, Jordan Love has to play at quarterback this week. As for your potential options here at running back, obviously we're playing Bijan and James Cook as your 1-2 combo. Your wide receivers consisting of Tyreek Hill, Ted McMillan should start as the 1-2 there. I'm going to leave DJ Moore. Yep, that's fine. Hawkinson's at tight end. I'm looking for an alternative option. Goddard, I'd play over him. Krosky Merritt is fine. Dobbins is fine. Yeah, you're in a really good spot. I mean, look, ultimately, solidifying a tight end for the remainder of the season is probably your biggest priority. And then once we can accomplish that, whether it is ending up being Goddard or Hawkinson, you'll be fine. But yeah, I'd make that swap there. I put in Goddard this week, and the rest looks pretty good for me, Sergio. Thank you. Dark Blood in 001 says, hey, Andrew, questions in the chat. All right, Dark Blood, and let me see if I can find it. If you can, retype it in the live chat if it's not there. Dejuan Golden says, Chuba Hubbard for DK Metcalf. I have Alvin Kamara, Genti, and ETN. Odunze is my number 1 wide receiver. I would like to hope that you can get something more than DK Metcalf for Chuba Hubbard, considering Chuba right now in a full PPR is the number 7 overall running back, having produced a total of 36.6 points, 18.3 fantasy points per game. So if you're only getting DK Metcalf, I don't think that is a equal trade. I'm going to need to get somebody back that is putting up very similar levels of production, to which, again, when I look around, I'd rather be able to get technically speaking, you can buy low on a lot of players and still find, like, Justin Jefferson's averaging 12 points per game right now. Like, the opportunity to be able to buy low, like I mentioned on a BTJ, should be far more capable. London, Nico, I'd rather have those players. AJ Brown, I'd rather have. Lad McConkey, I'd rather have. Mike Evans, I'd rather have. There's so many better players that you can get in exchange here that I think are just more advantageous for you in the future. Stephen Bracken says, would you start Daniel Jones over Jaden Daniels? If Jaden Daniels is active this week, I have a hard time sitting him. I could justify the reason as to why you would, because there's a possibility in which he could re-aggravate his knee injury and then leave the game. So Daniel Jones is probably the safer play of the bunch, but anytime you have an opportunity of playing Jaden Daniels, you usually want to take that opportunity. Salted Pork says, which 2 do I start? Chase Brown, Hubbard, or Mason? Yeah, as of right now, I'll take Chase Brown and Mason. Thank you. El Pollo 33 says, do I trade Hill/ETN for London? Probably not. I think that's giving up a little too much. Rosters, Knicks, Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Drake London, JSN, and Njoku. Oh, okay, so you have London. So you're going to be trading for ETN in London? Is that the circumstance here? Which 2, if so? Yeah, if theoretically you're in a position to where you are the one with London. Oh, no, roster would be. I understand now. No, I'd keep what you have. I'd keep those 2 options. Thank you. All right. Let me go ahead. Let me go back into the live chat. Let me see if these questions were sent in effectively. We're looking for Dark Blooded. All right, Dark Blooded says, in a full PPR, super flex, my starters are Daniels, Chase Brown, Hampton, Neighbors, Keenan, Pitts, Pickens, Dak, benches, Scatterbu, Judkins, Harris, Coleman, Godwin, Sutton, Addison, Kittle, Aaron Jones. I'm 0-2 now and worried about running backs, trades or hold. Yeah, I think we're going to have to make some moves here. I mean, looking at the roster as a whole, okay, so here's my... If I was in your position, I'm taking Scatterbu and I'm taking Pickens, and I'm trying to probably go and trade for some running back depth or help to fill in that. Well, no, honestly, you can't even fill. Look, okay, here's the thing. Hampton has to play. You can't trade Hampton right now. If you have Hampton on roster, guys, it's impossible to move him because you're selling him far too low. So in this circumstance of your situation, Dark Blooded, you kind of have to hold Hampton. Now, whether you play him or not is up to you. But in this current circumstance, unless you're going to push 2-for-1 deals, to which you're taking a Sutton or Pickens alongside of Scatterbu and trying to push to go get a running back, I think that would be the only kind of exploration that you would theoretically, go down the path of. I'm trying to get JCM, guys. I'm trying to get Genti. I'm trying to get those kind of players. If you can, great. If you can also, theoretically speaking, get a Breece Hall, not a bad idea. That's who I would try to go after. Try to work some deals, see if those managers are interested. If not, then you're kind of forced to hold and just wait until Hampton can kind of put together some solid weeks here. Because otherwise, I'm not trying to sell him. I'm just trying to buy with other opportunity players you have on current roster. Thank you. Levant sends in a question. Levant, where did it go, brother? My question was long, so separate 2 messages. I'm going to retype right now. It says, I'll send on Patreon if the question is long, see 3 separate questions. Yeah, if you can, send it on Patreon and let me go ahead and take care of it after the live stream. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Let's continue on. Okay, really quickly. So I'm going to get through the list of questions we still have available here, and then we'll probably call it. Again, I do appreciate y'all coming through. There's still a lot of time between now and, of course, later on in the week to get a lot of these questions answered. I do appreciate y'all coming through and being patient and, of course, showing the love with your support, not only, of course, just being here, but for those of you who have sent in the super chats and, of course, continue to click the like button, continue to subscribe and help us get closer to 100K subscribers, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see where we're at in terms of some of these questions. We were next going to look at the potential of this El Pollo 33 question, I believe. That says, do I trade Hill / Okay, so we took care of that. We're good to go. Josh sends in a question. Says, I traded Ibuka and Kamara for St. Brown and straight up. Okay. Also Swift for Genty. Good move. Yeah, the Swift for Genty one is like an automatic. I think bringing in St. Brown, considering you're playing in an 8-man format, I have no problem with. I think these are great moves overall, and I think your team is really solid across the board. So yeah, I'm happy with the moves as it currently pertains to your 8-man format, full PPR. Inyo Cheeks sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, 2 flex. I'm currently 0-2. Am I cooked? No. Listen, guys, there have been so many circumstances in which, whether it's been my team or teams in which I've helped over the course of the season, whether it's on Patreon or whether it's just on, these live stream chats, people have told me, Andrew, I started 0-5 and I won the league. Like, it's all about getting to the dance. You just want to make the playoffs. How do we accomplish that? Well, if you're playing in a league where 8 teams get in and it's a 10 or 12 team league, you just need 6 or 7 wins. If it's a 6 teams make the playoffs in a 12 team format, you need 8 wins, right? 9 wins. That is still very much so capable, as we are only, 2 weeks done and we've got 14 regular season games, so 12 ahead of us to be able to accomplish that. There's a lot of time between now and then. Injuries will occur. A lot of trades will be made. A lot of waiver wire potential options will be made. And, in the meanwhile, even though the team may look bleak now, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint to the top. Josh sends in a question. It says, Legend, Pickens, or JCM in the flex? Who's Legend? That's a real question for me, Josh. Because as of right now, not knowing the context to that, I think is definitely necessary to kind of figure it out. Dylan Obus sends in a question. Let me see if I can find your question, Dylan. While we're at that, tell me who Dylan. Tell me who Legend is. My super chat is cooked. LFMFAO. All right, Dylan says, Ridley or Roma Dunze this week? I'd rather play Rome, and it's not even close. Going forward in a 10-team PPR, I'd rather also have Rome. Thank you. Yeah, Rome is like he's going to be in my very highly ranked wide receivers for probably the remainder of the season based on how he's kind of been exposed to the opportunity to share within that offense. Josh, let me know. Thanks, man. Luigi Elite says, Cup or Scatterboo in the flex? It depends. If it's a full PPR, just give me Cup. If it's a half standard, give me Scat. Caleb Williams or Kyler Murray? I'd rather play Caleb Williams this week. Michael Wynn sends in a question. Says, in a 10-team half PPR, Drake, DK, Wilson, Pacheco, Warren, Pitts, Ricky, Olave, RJ, Bigsby, Braylon Allen, Renfro, Kittle, and what do we have? Jordan Love at quarterback. Any moves to make? I mean, look, currently this team needs Garrett Wilson and DK Metcalf to wake up, but the biggest issue with this team as a whole is your running backs. Pacheco is not a sustainable enough asset, so you are absolutely looking to make some trades. What am I doing in specific? I am trying to move anything that I can to try to buy low on prospects. I'm trying to go get JCM. I'm trying to legitimately trade for Jordan Mason right now. I'm also in the business of going after looking at what you currently have. Again, if Hampton is somehow, some way available, we're going down that path. Genty, Chase Brown for a panicky manager, Breece Hall. Shoot, I'll even take David Montgomery. I do not care. Anything will work because Warren can't get the job done by himself. If you have to utilize the potential of a Olave plus another option to make this move, so be it. But otherwise, I'm probably looking to try to take maybe one of your better receivers, like a Wilson here, alongside of a Pacheco, and ship him off in order to try to bring back some of that running back value that we are in desperate need of for this team. John sends in a question. Says, I'm 0-2 in a PPR. CD, Tet, Mike, Rome, Bucky, Kyron. Scared of Kyron? I don't blame you. If you wanted to get out of it, go get Chase Brown. Joey Martin says trade PPR Worthy and Daniel Jones for May and Hawkinson. Yeah, I'd rather have legitimately the Daniel Jones and Worthy side. Gary says, sent question in Patreon. Okay, Gary, if you can do me a favor, I appreciate you sending in the super chat. If you can wait until after the stream is done and I can take care of that, that'd be greatly appreciated, Gary. I'll try to get to that immediately. Tim O sent in a question. Tim, let me see if I can, if you can do me a favor and retype that into the live chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Appreciate that, man. All right, let's see if Josh ended up following up in regards to who Legend is, and then at that point I can figure out what the heck I'm doing here. You are the Legend? Ah, I see. I'm addressing to you. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Okay, brother. Okay. Thank you. Pick one between JCM and Pickens in a half PPR. Thanks. Okay. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I'll take it. Thank you. In regards to how we are going about the potential of Jacory, where do I have him ranked? Jacory is there, and then I have Pickens relatively high in a half PPR. Yeah, I probably, as of right now, just to be safe, because that Raiders run stop defense a little bit stingy, I'm going to just go with that, the Pickens play this week there. Josh, thanks, man. I appreciate the patience again. Okay, continuing on. Let's see where we're at here. Really trying to catch up and get everything taken care of so we can close out today's live stream. I do appreciate y'all coming through. We have Kent, who says, in a 12-team full PPR, if Daniel sits, okay, Russ, Browning, Tua, or Stroud, I'd rather take CJ Stroud out of the group. Yeah, Stroud will be my suggestion. It says, currently starting Ridley, Pollard, Pearsall. Start JCM over any of those options. Considering the available options you have, I would legitimately rather play JCM over Ridley. Also, Juwan Johnson or Njoku, give me Juwan Johnson. Thank you. Kamikaze says, questions in the chat, Andrew. Thank you, Kamikaze. I appreciate that, brother. It says, in a 12-man league, I'm in a half PPR. Barkley owner looking to trade for a wide receiver and a running back. Okay. I have May, Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, Achane, Bucky, Njoku, Igbuka, Pollard, my bench consisting of DJ Moore, Dobbins, Algier. Okay, so look, here's the thing. The Saquon Barkley owner is very unlikely to give you Saquon Barkley for Dobbins and Igbuka, to which at that point, maybe you can give Igbuka and Bucky Irving to go get him. I think that is very much so a possible opportunity to which you should explore it. Then subsequently after, pick up Tank Bigsby. But that's what I would assume is it's going to require, because you don't have any other wide receivers here that I'm assuming he'll take. If he will take DJ Moore and Bucky, then so be it. Shoot, if he'll take Dobbins and DJ Moore, fuck it, let's go. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he'll probably want Bucky and Igbuka, and that's probably sufficient enough for me, at least in my mind, to be able to be happy taking Saquon there. If you're not happy about it, then don't worry about it. Try to, offer the Dobbins side of that overall circumstance and see if they'll take that first and foremost before you get to offering the big weapons. Okay, Tim, where's your question here, my man? Tim O says the following. Says, trade for Bowers. I have London, Tyreek Hill, Tet McMillan, Rashid Shaheed, and Rashi Rice and Ridley. Okay, trade for Bowers. She doesn't want Hill. Okay. So in the event in which you were trying to trade for Bowers, it's probably a situation here where you're going to have to give Tet McMillan and another piece, because I'm not giving London for that. I'd rather have London in this circumstance going forward. So Tet McMillan would be the best available option to give away, unless they want Rashi Rice. So it's Tet plus some other piece you have on roster. So it just depends on what your current tight end is and or another variable that I'm unaware of in terms of the full context of this question, Tim. Okay, we continue on with a question that comes in from Dondo1K, who says, in a 12-man full PPR, trade away Kupp, Montgomery, Garrett for Tyreek Hill, Tyler Warren. My team consists of the following. Yes, I make the trade. Give me the Tyler Warren side. Thank you. Tan Fam sends in a question. Tan, if you could, okay, let's see here. In a half PPR flex, DJ Moore, Pearsall, or Rondell Robinson. Okay, in a half PPR of those available options, I could justify not playing DJ Moore there. I currently have him ranked the highest, though. I'm expecting that game to be a legitimate shootout. Full PPR flex, BTJ, DK Metcalf, Pollard, or Stevenson. In the flex and a full PPR, I have to play BTJ. Thank you. Rob Jackson says, what's up, Andrew? What should I do with my team? I'm in a 14-team full PPR league with Purdy and Russell Wilson a quarterback. Running backs are Chase Brown, Kamara, Montgomery, Benson, Harvey, and Spears. Wide receivers are London, Rome, Pearsall, Diami Brown, and Horton. Tight ends are Fannin and Loveland. I mean, look, as of right now, if you were trying to theoretically improve your team, you could take Rome Odunze and try to go 1 for 2. Try to go get 2 wide receivers. Like, theoretically speaking here, if you are in a team where you can only start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, I don't even make a move. But if you're playing in a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, or 2 wide receiver, 2 flex format to where you're starting a lot of options every single week, because of the 14-team format, you're already thin on depth. You could take Rome and go and sell him for 2 players. You go get AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin off somebody's team. I don't know. I'm just hypothetically speaking. That would be the way in which you accomplish, garnering more depth for this team. Until then, I'm not even mad at like how this team's built. I think Chase Brown, Kamara, Montgomery get the job done. I think the potential of your tight end just rolling with Fannin until Loveland wakes up is fine. I think your wide receivers are solid with London and Rome, and then until Purdy comes back, then Pearsall will be relevant again. So that would be the only theoretical path in which I go exploring. Otherwise, I keep it as is. Big Rod says, if JD5 doesn't play, do I start Kyler or Caleb? I'd rather play Caleb. Thank you. Joel sends in a question, says, in a 12-team full PPR, my team consists of Henry, Connor, Stevenson, JCM, Tootin, BT, JT, Mac, Terry, Robinson, McBride, and Henry. Good trade target for Connor. What position? Okay, considering the running back depth you currently have, yeah, if you were going to theoretically trade Connor for somebody, you're trading him for a receiver. To which, again, I'm going to tell you to go and explore the potential possibilities of getting a London, a BTJ, a Nico Collins, an AJ Brown. Legitimately, even a Mike Evans. If you can find the potential where you can trade Connor and one of your receivers, like let's say you take T-Mac and Connor, and someone's like, yeah, I'm panicking about Jamar Chase, I'm panicking about Justin Jefferson, scoop it up. But in the event in which you are just trading 1-for-1 deals in this circumstance at wide receiver, I am very much so in the players that I named kind of camps. I'd also be willing to potentially explore the possibility in which I'm moving Connor to try to go get... Connor right now is... if you can go get Devontae Adams, shoot. Please and thank you. I'm even okay with the idea of going after... You already have Tat? Yeah, you already have Tat. I'm okay with the idea of going after like a Jacoby Myers if you just need more wide receiver depth. But if you're trying to legitimately buy low, the names that I mentioned are probably the way to go about it. Unless someone's trying to give you like a 2-for-1. Like they'll send over Mike Evans and something else for Connor. MMA Edit sends in a question. Says, I'm in a 12-team league. Okay. Full PPR, 1 flex. Mahomes, Herbert, HN, Henry, Ramondre, AJ Brown, Pittman Jr., Quentin Johnston, Kittle, Jawan Ertz. Should I trade? Mahomes, Herbert, HN, Henry, Ramondre, AJ Brown, Pittman, Quentin Johnston, Kittle, Jawan. Yeah. If I was in your position, I'm trying to find a team in your league that wants to take Jawan Jennings or Ertz off of your team and give you a wide receiver. That's the only thing that I change up here. Thank you. Denon sends in a question, says, Tet or Lad this week? If AJ Terrell is out, I'll take Tet McMillan. If he's not, then I'll just take Lad McConkey. Cheeks sends in a follow-up, says, what move should I make? Team is in the chat. All right, Cheeks. Let me write your name down, and I will get to your team in just a moment. Billy Roy sends out a question, says, I traded away DeAndre Swift and Juwan Johnson, and received Kraft and Jordan Mason. Beautiful. Fantastic. I love it. It says, I have Puka and Lad as my wide receivers and gives it on. That's as good of a trade as I could possibly imagine. Well done. Andrew sends in a question, says, trade Pollard and Travis Hunter for Pickens and Henderson. Yes, absolutely. Give me Pickens and Henderson side. Head Shop says, AJ Brown for Pearsall. I would rather have AJ Brown. Thank you. David Vu sends in a question, says, in a 12-team league, would you trade Jacobs and Tet / Sutton for CeeDee Lamb? Under the assumption that I'm giving away Jacobs and Sutton or Tet McMillan, would I rather... If it's a full PPR format and you've got enough running back depth to afford it, then sure. Otherwise, no. Because I think losing running back depth where this season running backs are already in a little bit of a disastrous position. Like thus far this season, throughout the first 2 weeks of the year, we are seeing far less rushing statistics gathered than this time last season. We're seeing a lot less potential upside from the top tier players, which is very concerning. So if you have a running back, it is very valuable and it should be treated as such when making deals because of the rarity of having a top tier player in that kind of capacity in terms of yardage. So as of right now, if you're solid at running back, which again, I would doubt to be the case, but you're in a 12-team league, maybe you drafted like a god If you did, sure. But if not, I'll just keep what you have. Dylan said, sorry, Andrew, but my original question is in the chat. All right, Dylan, let me go ahead and I'll find that right now, my man. Mano sends in a question, or Mono says, with Barkley owner, giving JSN/Bigsby for Taylor. With Barkley owner. Yeah, I have no problem taking Taylor off their hands for that. Sounds good to me. Killy West says, Jalen, Warren, Swift, Sutton, start 2 in a full PPR. I'll take Warren and Swift this week. Dylan says, my team is in the chat. Okay, Dylan, thank you for the patience. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get to that right now. And then we're going to close out today's live stream in just a moment. Dylan says, sorry, Andrew, my first question is way up there. Second superstar. Okay. It was that I traded Bill and Hawkinson for Kraft and Ramondre. Beautiful. Love it. In a 10-team league. Yeah, getting Kraft in this circumstance is so valuable because, yeah, he's going to be a bit of a difference maker here in the upcoming future. And trading Bill for the Ramondre side, I don't really mind that. I think it's a little bit of a downgrade in the long term, but one that I'm willing to make in order to get that that tight end upgrade. Lamar, Saquon, Ramondre, Puka, JSN, Kraft, Rome. Yeah, brother, you're stacked, Dylan. Like, the fact that you have Puka, JSN, and Rome, I would feel like I'm on cloud 9 with that roster, legitimately. I don't care what anything else looks like. Those receivers are so stacked. And the fact that you have Jawan Jennings and Jake Ferguson on roster as well keeps me a little bit concerned. If I was in your position, Dylan, I am filtering out and trying to find some trades to make with those two guys immediately now that you have Kraft. All right, Rogo sends in a follow-up question, says, someone just dropped Sutton, put a claim in for Shaheed/Austin. Yeah, drop both of them. I don't care. Get Sutton immediately, brother. Killy West had a follow-up, says, across 2 trades, I traded Jamar, Jamo, McBride, Jawan for CeeDee Lamb, Warren, Nico. Thoughts? Jamar, Jamo, McBride, and Jawan. Yeah, that is as clean of a trade as you get, because theoretically speaking here, we're talking about 2 top 12 wide receivers and a potential top 5 tight end for 1 top 12 wide receiver, a top 5 tight end, and then 2 like kind of ancillary options that are going to be like matchup players. I think in the long run, it is the correct move to go for the Nico side alongside of CeeDee Lamb there. Well done there, Killy. Dobbins or Olave in a PPR? I probably lean towards Olave there, just off of sheer volume. If you're going to catch the ball 6 times, get about 50 yards on a base average, the upside performance would probably end up being like a 7-catch, 70, 80-yard game, to which, again, J.K. Dobbins would need a touchdown minimum to be able to get into that conversation, which is already difficult enough because of the matchup taking on the Chargers. Tim O says, okay, Tim, do we have any follow-ups here? She has Hampton. I could offer K9 and Tet for Hampton and Bowers. Yes, please. Legitimately, I will take that. I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue with it. All right, Cheeks sends in a question. Says, I don't know why typing in YouTube is difficult. Here it is with proper spacing. Okay. It says Knicks, Chase Brown, Kamara, JJ, Tet, McMillan, Warren, Pickens, Henderson, Golden. We have Blue. Blue can get off roster. Braylon Allen can get off roster. Drop them. Jaden Higgins can get off roster. We don't need these. That can go. As for what is your... Okay, so what is the exact question in this circumstance here, Cheeks? Thank you. Okay, I see Hector with another question. Says, full PPR DJ Moore, Higgins rest of the season. If it's Higgins, yeah, I'd rather honestly just have Higgins at this point. DJ Moore, I think there's a possibility in which he could recover. But if Rome Odunze is going to continue to maintain his wide receiver 1, I think the possibility of Higgins being more a little bit, I think in my mind, touchdown upside friendly in comparison to DJ Moore is more of a reality. So I'll just lean towards Higgins there. Benny, what's up, my man? Says, love your work. My fellow bald lives matter for legend. Okay, brother. You're a jokester, aren't you, Benny? You are a jokester. You've always been a jokester, though. So, I mean, that's, it's par for the course. Endo says, in a half PPR rest of the season, Connor or Judkins. I could justify the Judkins side of this, but it's going to take a little while for me to do so. I'd still lean towards Connor for right now. Dylan, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Cheek says, any trade suggestions, moves you think you can make? Okay. So in regards to the teams as a whole, Knicks, I'm still sticking with. Chase Brown, I'm sticking with. Kamara, I'm sticking with. Justin Jefferson's great. McMillan's great. Warren's great. Pickens is great. Henderson's a little bit of a trouble situation. I think when I look at the bench, I want to get rid of Blue, Braylon Allen, and Jaden Higgins, and I want to explore picking up a Christian Kirk. I want to explore the potential of picking up a Blake Corum, and those kind of potential opportunity plays, again, assuming they are available. In the event in which they are not, then at that point, we are just purely in the conversation of how do we improve this team by buying low on other prospects. The other prospects that we're trying to buy low on effectively are BTJs, Drake Londons, AJ Browns, Nico Collins at the wide receiver position, or even going further than that in a even buy lower sense, DK Metcalf's, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin's. Okay. If we're looking for running back help for the future, then we would explore the idea of going after Hampton, Genty, JCM, Brees Hall. If those potential players that I just mentioned are on teams in your league that are panicking 0-2, let's go explore those possibilities in which we can, theoretically take Warren, who has played relatively well, try to buy low on another running back, or take the potential of Ted McMillan or Pickens, who just come off from pretty good games themselves, and try to buy low on those other wide receivers that I just mentioned. All of it is capable alongside of Scadaboo. You take Scadaboo and Warren, or Scadaboo and Pickens, or McMillan. Let's make the flips happen. Okay. I am almost done here, guys. I do appreciate y'all coming through and supporting the channel. Keeping the lights on is greatly appreciated. I did not fire up the stream today and anticipate this to be a potential 2.5 hour live stream. I did not anticipate it. Usually I like to try to keep these streams at about, I want to say, an hour 30. We're 2 hours and 3 minutes deep. And I'm slowing down mentally as I'm getting tired here, but I do appreciate y'all coming through here and supporting as much as you guys have. Okay. Let's see. Did I miss anything in terms of these questions? Hector, did we have anything from you as a follow-up? Let me see. Let me just confirm real quick, my brother. Yeah, okay. We already took care of that. We're good to go. All right. We had a question that came from Jagar. Jay, where is your question, my man? All right, Jay. Let's see here. He says, full PPR question. Pending trade of Keenan Allen for Josh Allen. No option to veto in league. Should league managers step in and veto? Okay. Yes. The answer is yes. Josh Allen and Keenan Allen are not comparable in any sort of capacity. So yeah, as of right now, I would feel very suspicious about the move. The only reason I would feel comfortable with that move ever being taken place within my league is if I was the one making the trade. So as of right now, the team that's getting Josh Allen should be investigated, and I want to see their Venmo. I want to see their Venmo, their Zelle, and their Cash App transactions. I want to see who's getting paid here. Okay, I need full proof because maybe cash was handed out. Who knows? But I need some some statements to confirm that we don't got no shady business going on there. Because yeah, it's a little bit risky, my man. Benny G says Australians, mate. Loose units. Yeah, I guess. That's my excuse. Yeah, good one. JK sends in a question, says JSN T-Mac, Devontae Smith, Coleman, CMC, Bucky, Kamara, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Rashad White. Who can I move to get BTJ or hold on? I mean, look, if you're trying to theoretically get BTJ, you're going to have to give some good players. So in this circumstance, there's a possibility in which they may be comfortable taking Ted McMillan and Pollard off of your hands, or it would have to be something like, oh, you're giving away Kamara alongside of Devontae Smith Coleman, right? That would have to be like the equal contribution, 2-for-1 kind of circumstance there. Thank you. Baba Booey sends in a question, says 2 flex full PPR, Worthy, Olave, Etienne, Judkins, and Quentin Johnston. Okay, so for starting 2 out of these available options, I think it's very much so dependent on whether or not Worthy plays. If Worthy plays, he plays alongside of Etienne. In the event in which he does not, I'm playing Etienne alongside of Olave there. Thank you, my man. Okay, we took care of that. Jagar, yeah, we should probably veto that. That looks a little bit suspicious to me, my man. All right, Donnie sends in a question. What's up, Donnie? How's it going, my man? Oh, Ahmed Khan came back with a question. Okay, Ahmed, let's see what you had here, brother. Ahmed says, trade Daniel Jones and Igbuka for Devontae Adams. My team is Jaden Daniels. Yes, I make the trade. I don't even need to look at the rest of your team. I think it's a fantastic trade for you, considering you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. Beautiful. Kamikaze says, you're killing it, Drew. Getting 100K by week 8. Brother, from your mouth to the fantasy gods, YouTube gods' ears, please. That would be incredible. Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. All right, so where are we at here? I am sweating. It is incredibly hot, and the air conditioner has been off for maybe the last hour. All right, so Pickens over Sutton. Yeah, I'd rather play Pickens this week, John. I appreciate it. John, I see you in this chat for like the last 2 hours, man. I appreciate that. Kamikaze, we're good to go there. Thank you, DeAndre. I appreciate that. Are you buying low on AJ Brown? If I have an opportunity to do so and I'm not paying too much for it, yes. What if he had Allen and Lamar? If you had Allen and Lamar, I think you can still get more than Keenan Allen, right? Like that is the sketchy thing. Like if you're going to trade away Josh Allen, you should be able to get back somebody who was selected in the first, or sorry, you should be able to get back a player that was selected in the second or third round of the NFL or like fantasy draft. So theoretically speaking, you should be able to technically, based off value proposition, get back at least a better player than Keenan. But I understand that Keenan's played incredibly well, having scored a touchdown. But in terms of when I look at the sustainability of that production from Keenan Allen, I don't see it as a sustainable factor. I don't see him scoring touchdowns every week. We've got, McConkey, who has been touchdownless. We have Hampton, who is touchdownless in weeks 1 and 2. In due time, it'll balance out, which again makes it a little bit less of a justifiable play. But if you had Lamar and Allen, I can't bat an eye. Like, here's the thing, guys. If you're playing in a league where you have players that are potentially suspicious of activities of like collusion and stuff, we got to find a better league. But again, you never know. There's always one manager that gets taken advantage of. Who knows what the deal is in this circumstance? Okay, let me see if I can close out today's video with a couple more of these questions. Where's Donnie? Control F. Let's look up Donnie in this chat. Donnie, there you are, my man. You could have just gone ahead and just typed it in the live chat, but I appreciate you sending in another super there. It says, I'm in a 14-team league, and I needed a quarterback. I got Patrick Mahomes, Scatterboo Shaheed, and traded J-Mo, Warren, and Jawan Johnson. What do you think? Desperately needed quarterback. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you... Okay, here's the thing. If I was in your position, legitimately speaking, I think in a 14-team league, losing out on J-Mo and Warren, I think is going to hurt a lot. Like, I would have rather started Jake Browning every single week for the remainder of the season than making this trade. That being said, I'm going to hope that it pans out as best as it possibly can for you, with Rice coming back and Worthy coming back. I hope Mahomes is an unstoppable force in the second half of the season. But man, I think giving up Warren and J-Mo and Jawan Johnson for this in a 14-team league is very rich for what you got in exchange. I think it's very, very rich. But yeah, fingers crossed, brother. Myers or Hill? Depends on the format. If we're talking about full PPR, I could justify playing Myers there, my man. All right, guys. Stu, what's up, my man? How's it going? Okay, guys. I think that's it. Let's hear. K Young Soo says, is JMC or JCM, excuse me, man, my dyslexia is kicking in here, and Ridley for BTJ a good trade? Yes. If you can get BTJ in acquiring him for just JCM and Ridley, I think it's a great trade. Raghav, what's up, my man? How's it going? Raghav says, I'm worried about Chuba following the offensive line injury. Should I try to move in a full PPR? I would try to. But again, here's the thing. You're going to have to sell him at the value at which he's been performing. And like I mentioned earlier, in a full PPR, Chuba Hubbard is RB7 with 18 points per game. If you're going to move him for another running back, try to go get a Bucky Irving at least. I mean, shoot, like, there's a lot of... I mean, Josh Jacobs is producing less fantasy points per game than him. You can try to go get that. But ultimately, like, it might be difficult to move him because people in your league may be aware of the injuries unfortunately taking place to that offensive line. But yeah, if you can, I think it's probably a good idea. Now, this is what I will say, okay? Even though the offensive line is dealing with injuries, it's not like Chuba Hubbard disappears tomorrow. It's not like he's not going to be top 15 ranked this week. He's still going to be highly ranked this week for me. Because 2 offensive linemen, sure, is devastating. But just look at last week. Like, the Buccaneers played without a starting left and right tackle for majority of that game. And what happened? Nothing. Their right guard out for the season. They're still going to be fine there. Shoot, on Thursday, Josh Jacobs, without 2 of his starting 5 offensive linemen, still ran for 14 fantasy points and a half PPR. Like, again, offensive linemen getting knocked out is certainly of importance, but it's not the end-all, be-all. SR20 Mars says, streaming defenses. Who can I drop? Hollywood Brown or Zach Charbonnet? I got the Ravens defense. If you're going to drop one of the two, I'm dropping Hollywood Brown. Thank you. I am sending a question for the last question of the day. I appreciate y'all coming through. I am says PPR, Knicks, Christian McCaffrey, Mason, Henderson, Benson, Judkins, Neighbors, DK, Ekbuka, Rome, Coleman, Godwin, McBride, 2-for-1 ideas. Okay. seeing as to how this team has been constructed, I would try to wait until Egbuka. Oh, wow. Okay. Hear me out. Roma Dunze plus another player and try to go for a top tier receiver. Like legitimately try to just rip it from the hip and go for like a, let's see here. If I was going to take a Dunze, theoretically speaking, I wouldn't even mind, like, let's say you take a Dunze and another option here, depends on what the team needs, and just try to go after a panicking Jamar Chase manager. I would legitimately try that. Because as of right now, Dunze in a full PPR is averaging 23.8 per game. Technically more than, Chase. If you're not going to look for that, then you wait a week, let Jordan Mason have a pretty good performance, and then try to ship Mason alongside of Egbuka and go after a top tier player at running back. Shoot, you can maybe even do it now depending on how much people in your league value him. But that's kind of how I want to go about it. Otherwise, I'm pretty comfortable with Judkins kind of being the guy that's going to be your RB2 going forward once you get to about week 6, 7. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all coming through. I appreciate all the support. We've been here for a solid, incredibly solid 2 hours and 13 minutes. But that's where we're going to call it tonight. Again, guys, like I've mentioned before, if you guys want my all-encompassing rankings for the remainder of the season, every single Sunday morning, be sure to check out Betr. Again, like I've mentioned before, depends on where you live. If you're eligible within these upcoming states and you want to go ahead and get those rankings every single Sunday morning so you don't have to go through the frenzy of our Sunday morning live streams and getting your questions answered in that regard, again, it's 3 easy steps. It's a first-time deposit. It's first and foremost signing up using code Andrew. If you don't even want the rankings, again, you can get a free $10 if you just use code Andrew. Play it however you'd like. But if you want to get those rankings, you'll have to make a first-time deposit minimum of 10, and then you'll have to make a first-time play minimum of 1 within one of the $10 that you deposited. You get to distribute or get to pick whether you play with the real cash or the better bucks that you get for free. Once you've made the 3 steps, again, like I mentioned, over the course of every video, live stream, and in the description of every single one of my videos, all that information there, you'll be able to get those rankings. If that's something that you guys are not interested in, potentially want to go ahead and be, members of the Patreon and support there and get your questions answered there, that is also an available opportunity in which you can get, of course, rankings every Thursday and Sunday. Additionally, get access to the Patreon-only Discord community server, and of course, get your questions answered. I see Stu in the live chat was saying something about, Andrew, can you, what does this say? He says, are you going to check Discord after this? I am. But if you want, Stu, I could just really quickly, let's see here, Stu. Really quickly, let's see what you have here. So you think, okay, at quarterbacks. I mean, looking at your team as a whole, I don't mind having Browning and Caleb Williams, excuse me. I'm not to the point where I'm like, I need to make a let me message you. Let me ask you questions once I get off the stream. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. That's what we're going to call it. I'm going to cue the double helix. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, not only with the video, but the live stream afterwards. See you guys. Peace.